Chapter 145. Placing the unconscious baby dragon inside his coat pocket, Michael walked along the bustling streets while looking for a tavern. Various shops including smithies, bakeries, bookshops and other miscellaneous stores were opening their doors to start the business. If this was any other day, he would have entered one or two stores to check what they were selling, but today, his sole focus was to gather any information he could about the doctor and save the baby dragon. Look, over there. While he was navigating through the labyrinth of streets, Gaia pointed at a name board that had the name Old Ship Tavern written on it. From the outside, the tavern looked cheerful, clean, and modest. Small stones and intricate stone carvings made up most of the building's outer structure. It was near impossible to see through the stained glass windows, but the entertainment from within can be felt outside. As they entered the tavern through the heavily used, metal door, they were welcomed by excitement and clapping hands. The bartender was a red-haired middle-aged woman who was clearly buried in orders but still managed to welcome them with a wave. It was as enchanting inside as it was on the outside. Squared, stone beams supported the upper floor and the large candles attached to them. The walls were littered with so many different memorabilia. The tavern itself was packed. Travelers like them seemed to be the primary clientele here, which was often a good sign. Several long tables were occupied by what must be separate groups who have bonded over great food and conversation. The other, smaller tables were also occupied by people who were probably starting to reach the point of having drunk too much, though nobody seemed to mind. Even most of the stools at the bar were occupied, though none of them looked to be minding more company. The air inside the tavern was filled with freshly baked bread, boots, and ale. On the other side of the large tables, people, mostly drunks, were dancing and singing along with the band of bards. Michael and Gaia managed to find stools before the bartender. "What can I get you two?" The bartender woman finished serving the others and came to Michael. Information. Michael slid a gold coin toward the woman. He did not waste any time exchanging pleasantries given the dire situation. "And water with lime, if you have any," Gaia ordered. Since Michael didn't drink any liquors, she also stopped drinking them, and instead, she got used to just hot water with lime, just like him. Putting the gold coin into her pouch hanging on her hip, she grinned brightly. "What do you want to know, young master?" She changed the way she addressed him because of the gold coin. Obviously, a commoner or a typical adventurer wouldn't just give a gold coin just like that. "Tell me everything you know about the doctor." "Another one," the man behind Michael snickered, taking a long sip from his mug. "Ignore that one, young master." The bartender glared at the man, wordlessly telling him to mind his own business. "Well, young master, no one know much about the doctor, but I'll tell you what I heard about the doctor. It might be just a hogwash or God's honest words. Even if they were just hogwash, Michael had no choice but to listen to them." At the moment, Michael and Gaia were waiting in a dark alley between two large buildings. Back at the inn, the bartender told them everything she knew and heard about the doctor. Most of what she told them seemed outright exaggeration or simply lies spewed by some drunkards, because who would believe an angel with pure white wings came from the sky and healed a drunk in the alleyway? In one story the bartender told them, the doctor brought a dead man back from death. Although Michael was desperate, even he couldn't believe that one could bring the dead back to life unless that person has a system that's fully upgraded, which was impossible. However, the conversation with the bartender was not all waste, as Michael got the names of everyone who's claiming that they were healed by the doctor. For another extra 5 gold coins, the bartender gave the names and where to find most of them. Creak. While they were waiting in the dark alley, a back door of the building left to Michael opened vaguely, revealing a figure of an old man. Gaia stepped towards the old man with no expression on her face. Despite the darkness in the alleyway and the old man's age, he grinned instantly, looking at the young girl walking towards him. "Are you lost, little girl?" Boom! In a flash, Gaia's hand grabbed the old man by his neck, slamming the old man against the wall. "Answer my questions or..." She placed a dagger on the old man's wrinkly throat. Any thing." The old man got his hangover cured just like that. "What do you know about the doctor?" asked Gaia. The old man shuddered to look at the vertical slit pupils which resembled the eyes of a venomous snake glowing in the dark. "Where and when did you meet him?" Michael asked the old man with a soothing voice to calm the old man down a bit. Near the orphanage. I saw someone healing an orphan." In the story the bartender told them, it was this old man who got healed by the doctor, not an orphan. tell me what he looked like. Gaia still had her dagger touching the old man's throat while asking, I didn't see his face. She instantly saw the old man withholding something by sensing the slight change in his voice. She had dealt with politicians and powerful cultivators ever since she was born, so she could find out when a commoner like the old man was lying to her face. You don't want to hold back anything, trust me, she said. This time her voice was colder. I heard music. What kind of music? Asked Gaia. Like. Ding, Michael didn't know whether to laugh or slap this old man for his music knowledge. Knock him out and threw him the dumpster, Chadak. The old man's world completely became dark before he could even raise a finger. Just as he told her, she knocked the old man and threw him into the nearby dumpster. Next one, after many days, only now his lips slightly curved upwards because finally, he might have gotten an actual lead to finding the doctor. I heard a sound, music, heavenly music, soul-soothing tune. I've never heard of something more beautiful. After the old man, both of them continued to interrogate the people who claimed to have been healed by the doctor. They used violence for some and gold coins for some, but the end result was the same. Everyone had heard some kind of music coming from the doctor. Afterward, Michael brought all of them to a place where the nobles of the royal land gathered to listen to music. It cost him 2,000 gold coins just to enter and stay for an hour. The garden he was walking through was filled with colorful flowers, exquisite fountains, delicately crafted benches for the nobles to sit, and the beautiful status of various musical instruments such as violin, zither, veena, etc. The deeper he walked into the garden, the louder the music became. Michael could understand why the nobles spent so many coins here, as even he felt refreshed by hearing the soul-soothing music in the air. But he was here neither to enjoy the scenery nor listen to this soul-soothing music. He was here to find out what kind of music these people behind him heard. By identifying the musical instrument the doctor used, he would be one step closer to finding him. Of course, there was a possibility that the doctor didn't use any kind of musical instruments and they all just heard some kind of magical vibrations, but Michael wanted to stay positive, for the sake of his baby dragon. Just as he was crossing by a statue of the musical instrument veena, the sweet melody of a veena being played could be heard in a nearby pavilion. Almost as if the music had an enchanting ability, the moment anyone heard this melody would feel as if their heartstrings were resonating along with the veena. That's it, it's the same. Few of the people behind Michael, including the old man who got knocked off by Gaia, shouted. Some seemed relieved as they could finally be free from these two youngsters. The moment Michael and Gaia heard the sound of the veena and the people behind them, they stopped walking and turned to look toward the source. They could only see a woman wearing a red-colored glistening robe with her back facing them in the pavilion. Her jade-white fingers could be seen dancing along the strings of the veena as the sweet melodies rang throughout the area. Few nobles sat on the bench near her, eyes closed, submerged in the ocean of music. Walking toward the pavilion, Michael quickly approached the back of the red-robed woman. Her black hair hung behind her shoulders down to her back. A white veil covered her face so that he couldn't see her appearance. The part of the girl's face that could be seen could only be described as a stunning beauty. In a flash, she finished playing the ballad and turned to look at him. Does my lord enjoy the sound of the veena as well? The girl spoke with a sweet, gentle voice, almost too gentle as if one wasn't strong enough, then they would be enchanted after hearing her voice. With a light smile, he replied, the second sister's ability with the veena is quite amazing. Although I would love to sit and listen to you playing, I have a life to save, so can you please answer my question? The girl first seemed puzzled by Michael's words, but soon, she smiled sweetly, speaking with a gentle voice. I thank the Lord for his praise and please, ask away, anything to save a life. He continued to smile at her, then pointing his fingers at the people behind him, he asked while carefully noticing her facial expressions, Miss, have you met any of them before? They say they heard a piece of music that soothed their soul and surprisingly, healed their wounds. The girl looked all of them who were in ragged clothes one more time before shaking her head. No lord, I have never met them, but what they told you is true, a piece of music that can heal. Only one who achieved the realm of perfection in veena could do that. As far as Michael and Gaia could tell, the girl was not lying. The girl continued, I am quite fond of the four arts and studied them studiously when I was young, but I am still far from the realm of perfection. While the sounds of my veena are quite soothing, it was mostly because of the veena itself. The girl's delicate finger stroked a string on the veena as she muttered, Although this Veena is a copy of the angel's Veena, it uses a variety of rare parts, including the soul energy of the one who wields the angel's Veena, Layla Alden. If one could have done what you said, it would be her, but I doubt she left the Rainbow Islands and came here to heal them. Her last words contained a hint of scowl as she had already whiffed a smell of ale coming from some of them in the group. She put it mildly to sound respectful, but she seriously doubted that Layla Alden, the wielder of Angel's Veena, gave the blessing of hearing the sound of Angel's Veena to these drunkards who weren't even worthy of breathing the same air as Layla Alden does. Angel's Veena? Layla Alden? Michael asked with confusion, while Gaia seemed like she knew the person the girl was talking about. Chapter 146. If I want to meet this Layla Alden, where do I go, miss? The girl shook her head. No one can meet Lady Alden whenever they wish, Lord, even the Emperor himself yearning to get that heavenly blessing. Well, see about that. Gaia didn't like all these exaggerations about Layla. For Gaia, this Layla woman was just another overrated cultivator in the Elon continent. Thank you for everything, miss, Michael said, nodding before leaving the garden with Gaia. They chased away the group of people as Michael saw no use in keeping them around. We are going to Rainbow Islands. She was determined to save the baby dragon. Nothing would stop them from doing so. Where is it? In the endless ocean. We have to find a portal. Although it won't let us travel into the Rainbow Islands domain, we can reach the border. Flying would take at least 4 weeks. We don't have that time, she explained, recalling everything she knew about Royal Land to find a portal. The devil has struck again. The devil has struck again. The devil has struck again. Just as they were in deep thinking, their train of thoughts was stopped by a panicked voice. They turned their head towards the voice's direction to see a young man who looked pale, screaming as loud as he could, "Run away, the devil has struck again." The young man kept screaming while the people who were strolling on the streets quickly covered in fear. Hide, hide inside your homes, Lucifer has struck again. Michael's body went rigid after hearing the young man screaming the name Lucifer. Both of them creased their brows, looking at each other confused. What's going on here? Michael asked as he walked in the direction of the young man. The previously crowded alleyway now became grim. When he was just about to grab the young man in question, he saw a group of soldiers rushing towards something. Michael and Gaia ignored the screaming young man and followed the soldiers to get some answers. Getting out of the alleyway, they stepped into the main street, which was paved with grayish stones. While many people ran in the opposite direction of the soldiers, Michael followed the soldiers behind with a few other daredevils. The more they followed the soldiers, the more chaos and soldiers they witnessed in the streets of Royal Land. Soon, they reached the town square. In the middle of the square, a group of soldiers clad in full iron plate armor formed a line, preventing the citizens from seeing the horror behind them. The smell of fresh blood permeated the square. Through the gaps in the crowd before him, he noticed the fountain in the square was painted splashes of red. What's happening? Michael asked an old woman in front of him to know more about what's going on here. It's the devil, young man. It has killed yet again. The old woman was too focused on craning her neck to see through the crowd as she didn't even look at Michael while speaking. Yet again? Yeah, this is the devil's 4th victim. I don't know who the troubled soul he took this time. The old woman held onto the pendant on her chest. He knew she's praying to the sun god. Look above, the holy guards are here. Hearing the sudden rise in the commission, Michael looked at the sky above the town square to see a group of 6 figures descended. All of them were covered in pure white shining armor with golden edges. Each of them had a different weapon, such as sword, spear, bow, staff, and even a huge battle axe. Their armors had a symbol of the sun painted on their chest plate, indicating their branch in the church. However, it wasn't their shiny armor or flashy weapons that made Michael arch his brows. It was their cultivation level. The leading figure, who had a sword on the side, was a core strengthening level 1 warrior. The rest of them were level 10 core formation warriors. This group alone showed Michael the power of the church. Get them all out of here, a female voice came from the core strengthening warrior. The guards immediately tensed up, pushing the crowd further and further away from the crime scene. You can't hide the truth from us forever. We need to know what's going on. Are our children safe? When are you going to catch that bastard? Who is the victim? We demand answers. The people weren't a pushover. They resisted the soldiers, shouting at the holy guards and the soldiers. The crowd became restless. while they were protesting and trying to turn this into a riot, Michael glared at Gaia, wordlessly telling her to come with him. Someone is copycatting us, when they put enough distance from the holy guards, Gaia said before forming an invisible barrier around them to prevent anyone from eavesdropping on them. I expected this, but not this soon, not here. Michael's voice was calm yet deep down, his voice had a hint of murderous intent to it. You need to stay here and clean up this mess before that copycat ruins our plans. What? She growled, showing her disagreement. She wanted to save the baby dragon more than anything. Although at first, she hated the baby dragon, when she thought about everything, she realized that the baby dragon was like a family to Ghost, which made the baby dragon a family to her. After reaching immortality, she would have to spend eternity with Ghost and the baby dragon. When the whole world turns against them, they have to have each other's back. Compared to that, the hostility between the Nagas and dragons seemed so puny and negligible to her. Besides, deep down, she knew the baby dragon would do the same to her if she was in his state. Remember, Gaia, I didn't create Lucifer to only spread fear, I created him to be the devil who punishes evil. Only then people would believe that anyone Lucifer kills is an evil person. If we let this copycat run around killing innocents, it would ruin our entire plan. Michael knew she wanted to be there when he cures the baby dragon. He too wanted to have her beside him, but this copycat changed everything. She clenched her fist. Fuck it, they'll stay here. She could understand that what Michael had said was true, and she knew that he needs her here. Besides, you're a lot stronger than me now. In case there's a fight with the holy guards, you would be able to at the very least escape. Yes, system. Can you at least give me a teleportation scroll that would get me to Rainbow Islands or closer to them? He had no reply from the system. He was just about to close the interface when he heard the familiar voice again. For 1,000 badass points. Take it. He could swear that he sensed the excitement in the system's voice, which went back to the old robotic voice before he upgraded it to level 3. For now, he knew he won't get any answers from the system, so he just retrieved the teleportation scroll he just bought from the system. We need to find a portal, Gaia said when he exited the system. No need. Since Michael couldn't reveal the fact that he just bought the scroll from the system, he pretended to draw symbols on the scroll. With the help of the system, the ordinary-looking scroll in his hand slowly began to glow as he was drawing symbols on them. What are you doing? Creating a teleportation scroll. I can't create them often as it would take a toll on my mental health, but I had to use this skill this time. She would have stopped him if she had a better way, but time was on the essence, and this seemed to be the only way to save the traveling time. Keeping the scroll in his hand, Michael moved further into the dark alley. Happy hunting, he said before tearing the scroll. A golden light instantly wrapped around his body. If you can't save Dickie, don't come back, she said, looking at the faint smile on his face before the golden light disappeared from her sight along with him. Return to me safely, human. I have a confession to make. As she said, she retrieved the love potions she took from the batch he brewed. She looked at the 2 potions one last time before crushing them to oblivion. During their trip to Royal Land, she felt her feelings for him had indeed grown stronger. Initially, she wanted to test herself using the love potion, but now, she decided to confess to him because she couldn't imagine a life with someone else. Gaia was positive that he feels the same way about her, only, he didn't seem to make the first move, so she took the matter into her own hands. The moment he comes back, she would drag him somewhere alone and confess her feelings. For now, I need to find that copycatting fuck and flay him alive. She put her hood on before leaving the dark alley with a resolute to kill the fake Lucifer. Chapter 147. In the sky above the endless oceans, a human-sized golden orb appeared. It hovered in the sky for a few seconds before exploding into millions of tiny light particles, revealing a youngster in full black armor, Ghost. He stared around, locking his eyes with an island in the distance. Other than the tiny island on the horizon, one could see nothing but an endless ocean, hence the name Endless Ocean. Lightning Dash, he utilized the spell to traverse the sky over the oceans. He had already become a bolt of lightning, soaring across the sky. Don't worry, baby dragon, I'll save you. As he flew, he murmured, patting his chest where the baby dragon was resting. Michael traveled over the endless ocean for another couple of hours before finally reaching the island. The tall mountain peak, which seemed like touching the sky itself, stood majestically. The island was surrounded by wildlife and numerous waterfalls. What was unique about this island was its color. When looked at from the sky, one could see all the 7 colors in the rainbow on the island. This was the first time he saw bright blue trees. Also, the island was very large, almost half the size of the kingdom Breedia. However, there were not many people who lived on it, only a measly few 100,000 people, and a large portion of it was undeveloped wilderness. A huge, 100-meter-tall stone tablet was inserted into the ground at the harbor, and on it were 2 large, finely engraved words, Rainbow Island. Michael descended into a dense forest on the island before walking towards the small port town not too far away. It was the only town on the island, and the entire population of the island lived there. I never thought there would be a population living here, Michael thought. From what he heard from Gaia, most of the powerful cultivators liked to live in secluded islands before leaving to the cold mountains where they would cultivate until either reaching the higher stages of cultivation or simply die of old age. At this very moment, the sound of horses galloping could be heard vaguely in the distance. Numerous men on extremely simple horses slowly galloped over. They wore simple clothes, dust and splashes of sand could be seen on their clothes. They all had a smile on their faces, a smile that would only come when they achieved peace with themselves. Kimu, this time, we must stay in the sea for at least a month. This time I want to double our usual catch, the beefy, middle-aged man riding at the front laughed aloud. Damn right, bro. Last time we came back from the sea too soon. If I could only catch a rare fish, it'll increase the size of my family, you know what I mean, hee. A young man in his late 20s grinned devilishly from beside the middle-aged man. His face shone bright thinking about a great time with his wife. The men spoke as they rode their horses before quickly coming across Michael. His strange armor immediately drew the attention of the men, each observing the black-robed youngster in wonder. The group of people stopped 10 meters before him. The leader, the beefy middle-aged man, spoke to him, and Michael slowed his pace when he heard the horse galloping to get the directions to Layla's residence, as there was no big mansion in his eyesight while he was on the air. You aren't a Rainbow Islander, are you? Where did you come from? Michael glanced over the men. Other than the leading middle-aged man, who was at the body refining stage level 8, the others were only at level 5 or level 4. Michael waved with a smile on his face. You are correct, brother. I'm not from Rainbow Island, I came to the island from a small kingdom in Elon continent. The man did not notice that Michael studied them to see their cultivation level. He said boldly, Elon continent, huh? You're a long way from home. Oh, where are my manners? Name is Keenan, but you can call me whatever you want. If I remember correctly, the last time an outsider came to our island seemed to be 12 years ago. How do you want us to call you? Is outside okay with you? Kenna asked, laughing. I am Jake. I came to this island looking for Miss Layla Alden. He said politely. He did not look down on these people because of their cultivation level. Who knows what their relationship with the doctor? Lady Alden, the man quickly corrected Michael with a smile, and Michael could see their admiration and devotion these men have towards this Layla Alden. If he tried to disrespect Layla, he was sure that these men would fight for her honor with their pikes and fishnets. Jake, you must have won some kind of competition and earned the chance to see Lady Alden. Keenan completely misunderstood the situation, but from his words, Michael realized that competitions are going on with the price of meeting this Layla Alden. His curiosity about this woman piqued. As Keena spoke, he pointed at the tall mountain in the distance. Do you see that huge mountain? That's the holy grounds of the island, called Angel Peak. That's where the Lady Alden and her disciples live. Michael looked towards the mountain and then gave a salute with 2 fingers. Thank you, brother, for your help. I must see Lady Alden as soon as possible, so forgive me for bidding farewell. With that, Michael lightning dashed towards the mountain before Keenan could say a word. Very soon, he arrived at the mountain peak. He did not hide his presence so he wouldn't look like an intruder trying to sneak into their home. Besides, Michael could already sense 2 powerful presence coming at him. State your name and your purpose of being here at our Angel Peak. A gentle, pleasant voice originated from the sky above the mountain. With 2 flashes of white light, 2 young, violet-dressed women appeared, both carrying Venas. The 2 females only seemed to be 20 years old. Their appearances were fair and alluring, rare beauties in the world. They were pretty enough to rival Claire, Selena, Peyton, and so on. After spending more than half a year in this world, he adjusted his mind to meet angelic beauties, so their beauty didn't surprise him much. However, what surprised him was that the two girls before him carried a celestial aura, like fairies. They clearly had something that those beauties he met previously never had. Even Gaia, level 10 core strengthening stage, the two girls before him were actually powerful level 10 core strengthening stage warriors. He quickly hid his shock, then he spoke calmly. I am called Ghost. Michael's instincts told him to go with the name Ghost instead of the name he gave to Keenan. Something about these girls made him believe that they could sense a lie. I need Lady Alden's help to save. The mistress of the island is currently in seclusion. She cannot help you now. Please come back another day. Although the woman sounded soft and respectful, Michael could sense a contempt in her voice, deep within. Michael did not show any of his inner emotions on his face. After all, it was him who needed Layla's help, not the other way around. After a slight hesitation, he asked, then when will Lady Alden come out of seclusion? That's up to the mistress to decide. It may be a few days, a few months, a few years, or even a few decades. The woman continued testing Michael's patience. If he was stronger than them, he would have wiped that smug off her pretty face with a single slap, but for now, he could only suppress his irritation. Arg! Suddenly, a howl filled with utmost pain reverberated from a cave on the mountain peak. With it followed various rumbles as countless rocks were sent flying from the cave. At the same time, the invisible arch-energy in the surroundings slowly gathered towards the hole, while an extremely profound presence descended from the void. Michael felt an immense pressure building up around him, making him almost kneel to the ground. It was like an invisible mountain was dropped on him. Even though he had never witnessed a sight like this before, he learned about this happening, thanks to Abra's memories. Someone is breaking through to the soul-refining stage. A sliver of shock had appeared in his eyes. Unexpectedly, the expressions of the two women changed. They immediately cried out, "Oh gods, he's woken again. Quickly, use the sound of the Vina to suppress his awakenings and put him to sleep again. We can't let him refine his soul, it'd be the end of him." The two women no longer paid any attention to Michael. They directly sat down in the air and placed the Vina they carried on their laps. Then they quickly but dexterously strummed the Vina's strings, creating a faint, divine melody. The pressure around Michael slowly decreased as he exhaled deeply. The melodious sound coming from the Vinas echoed through the air, covering the entire Angel Peak mountain. It seemed to hum with space, causing slight distortions in the surrounding space. Everything around them, the trees, the wildlife, even the small particles of mud seemed to be affected by this enchanting sound. He couldn't help but feel relaxed, refreshed as he had just come out of a world-class massage. Who are these people? Chapter 148, What a Powerful Music. He was secretly surprised. This music, played by the two women, was not even targeted at him, yet he could feel the overwhelming radiation of power in the air around him. If it was targeted at him with the purpose of hurting him, he would have literally blown away from the mountain, he was sure of it. Junior sister, make him fall asleep with the Mayan sleeping tune. They'll try to keep his soul from getting refined, one of them said grimly. Although she seemed to be a powerful cultivator, it was extremely difficult to prevent someone's soul from getting refined and reaching the soul-refining stage. Yes, senior. I'll come help you as soon as I put him to sleep, the other woman spoke sternly before abruptly changing the way she played the Vina. The music produced became much softer, and it contained a soul-soothing charm. The melodious tune could pierce through all barriers to affect the spirits of people, causing them to feel relaxed and sleepy. The other woman's music also changed. Her tender fingers had already turned into blurs as they danced about on top of the Vina strings, causing a lethal melody to fill all the surroundings. It caused the air around them to surge like a storm where the surroundings reacted to it. Under the effect of this lethal melody, all the particles in the world and arch-energy around the island were affected. All kinds of energy gathered from every direction under the melody's control before merging up to form a great, tightly knit but invisible net, layering together to seal up the entire mountain and, as a result, obstruct the arch-energy to be used in soul refining. In addition, silvery notes shot out from the Vina one by one. They quickly flew towards the arch-energy with a destructive aura radiating in an attempt to interfere with the arch-energy. Michael had long sensed that the arch-energy they were blocking was extremely powerful. It was far superior to the arch-energy he had seen and used. This superior arch-energy was called celestial energy. Anyone above the core strengthening stage could use a small portion of celestial energy in the world. The higher they climb up the cultivation stages after the soul refining stage, the more one could utilize the celestial energy in the world to cast a spell or increase their strength. The celestial energy slowly descended from the sky with an intense aura. As the destructive notes clashed with the celestial energy, it would ripple slightly, but it did not disperse and soon collided with the huge net. The net could only slow down its descent, but it could not stop it. The celestial energy slowly sank into the net, descending towards the cave. The woman who blocked the celestial energy looked grimmer than before. The melody played by her abruptly changed, and the destructive feeling suddenly disappeared, replaced by a muffled tune. This time the woman played the strings of her veena at a much slower speed, but with every string she struck, a muffled sound would reverberate in the sky. It contained great power, as if it was capable of directly crushing the hearts of people. The surroundings were also greatly affected, and the entire region of space distorted greatly. As for where the celestial energy descended, space was directly annihilated, creating a black hole with a diameter of 5 meters in an attempt to engulf the celestial energy. Holy shit, Michael felt a cold chill crawling through his spine when he saw the black hole and the sky swallowing the arch-energy in the surroundings. He did not dare to break the two girls' concentration by opening his mouth. He just held onto a mountain wall, trying not to fly into the black hole. The celestial energy descended from the sky after passing through the various obstructions. Even though there was the huge invisible net created by these two girls, it continued forwards with an extremely steady pace. No matter what stood in its path, nothing could stop celestial energy from advancing. It directly ignored the black hole formed from the destroyed space and passed through it, continuing onwards. The celestial energy this time is much more powerful than last time. Junior, quickly make him fall back asleep, I can't keep this much longer. The woman responsible for blocking the celestial energy's descent seemed desperate and, shortly afterward, the melodies rang out hurriedly once again. The visible waves of sound shot out with great lethality, flying towards the celestial energy. But even with all of this, it was unable to stop the descent of the celestial energy. Currently, the celestial energy that slowly descended from the sky was less than 1,000 meters from Angel Peak Mountain. Arg! A shrill cry filled with utmost pain rang out. Shortly afterward, the cave in the distance rumbled loudly a few times, causing the entire mountain to shake slightly. Gods! His mind and soul are resisting the tunes. I'm failing to make him fall asleep. The other woman's expression changed greatly, shouting at her junior. Hearing that, the face of the woman who was responsible for obstructing the celestial energy darkened. Drops of cold sweat could be seen on her pretty face. After a few moments of silence, she spoke out, there's not much time left. If he doesn't fall asleep, he'll die for sure when the celestial energy reaches his soul. Use the soul-controlling melody. With that, the woman turned around to Michael. She requested, Ghost, please help us fight the celestial energy from descending. Just what's happening? Michael asked, bewildered. How could he, a mere body-strengthening cultivator, fight the Celestine energy? At least if he had the system online, he would have felt somewhat confident in fighting the celestial energy, but the system wasn't online, hence he was reluctant. There's no time to explain it right now. We just can't let the celestial energy descend on him, or he'll die, the woman replied with a rushed, deep voice, while she continued playing the veena. Visible powerful sound waves shot towards the celestial energy, slowing its descent. After a slight deliberation, Michael did not choose to stay idle, not because of the goodness of his heart but to help himself by helping these girls. If he refused to help them, they would definitely chase him away, no questions about that. He simply couldn't leave the mountain without meeting Layla, who was the only hope he had to save the baby dragon. What can I do? He asked, preparing to help these girls. Attack the celestial energy. Just like any other energy in this world, celestial energy had no physical manifestation. He could only sense the high concentration of the energy above him, clashing with the barrier created by the girls. Michael cracked his neck before stepping on his flying sword to fight the celestial energy. He did not, however, use the lightning dash to fly towards it headstrong in case the celestial energy was too intense for him to even get close. Energy Devourer activating. System is in safe mode. Energy devouring failed. Damn it. His face was lit by the first notification, but soon, the light was put down by later notifications. He let out his frustrations by punching the center point of the celestial energy concentration. Except when his fist collided with the celestial energy, it actually just passed through. Unlike the normal arch energy, the celestial energy was not tangible, as his punch did not affect it at all. The light in Michael's eyes flickered. With a thought, he conjured the arch energy in his body to surround the space before him, freezing the particles in the air in an attempt to slow down the celestial energies descending. However, what surprised Michael was that celestial energy completely ignored the frozen space. It moved about freely, just as before, and slowly descended. Fuck it. Wind blast. Since he found no way of stopping the celestial energy, he frantically shot out blasts of wind at the energy. Surprisingly, the wind blast proved more useful than his punches or freezing the air around him. Each blast distributed the trajectory of the celestial energy, slightly, very slightly slowing the energy. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 2,000 badass points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 3,000 badass points. Michael quickly turned his gaze at the two women to see a slight shock in their eyes. It was hardly worth mentioning, but it was there, a mix of shock and surprise. The 5,000 badass points motivated him to fire numerous wind blasts at the celestial energy without worrying about the arch energy limit in his body. He always knew the wind blast can't be a useless spell, and now he was proven right. However, this did not last for very long. Although Michael's wind blasts proved to be useful against the celestial energy, it was not near powerful enough to compete with the celestial energy, and since Michael was only a body-strengthening cultivator and the spell was at level 2, the celestial energy continued to descend, pushing Michael further and further down. Watching as the celestial energy grew closer and closer to the cave, Michael also became uneasy. He was currently pondering over whether he should keep fighting a battle that he cannot win. Just as he was thinking, an elegant but powerful Vina melody slowly appeared in the sky. It seemed to be divine, and with its appearance the entire space became blurry. Clear ripples had appeared. At this moment, the entire region of space seemed to become a huge Vina, while the ripples of space that constantly appeared were the strumming of strings. As the strings formed from the space were constantly hit, bending the laws of this world and causing the space around Angel Peak Mountain to become its own world, a different domain. And in this domain, the descending celestial energy was forcefully halted, as if they were locked up mid-air by mysterious energy and unable to move at all. When the two women heard the Vina, they immediately rejoiced. They heaved a sigh of relief as their faces brightened. They both stopped playing and called out, "Mistress, you've finally come out of seclusion." Arg! A shrill cry rang out from the cave again. It was filled with pain, as if it was enduring unbearable torture. "And you're still not sleeping?" A gentle voice originated from the space, and it seemed to be filled with an utmost charm. With just a single sentence, it seemed to be able to make everything in the world fall asleep. With that, the cries from the cave finally stopped, and shortly afterward there was the sound of something heavy falling onto the ground, followed by nothing but silence. The words did not only affect the person gone mad in the cave. Even Michael was greatly affected. He immediately felt refreshed and calmed. His eyelids felt heavy, and they became drowsy. However, he returned to his senses very quickly. The charm of the sound could no longer be described as terrifying. If he was in a battle and they suddenly became distracted, as a world's best assassin, he knew a second of distraction would cost his life. "This is terrifying," Michael mumbled. He couldn't help but feel a small sprout of fear growing inside him. Chapter 149. The almost divine Vina music continued to linger in the air. The music was gentle. It seemed like the music was using a special method to control the world itself, forcefully manipulating the space. Michael looked upwards at the blue sky, eyes filled with a mix of shock and surprise. As a cultivator, he could feel the changes in the world around him. The laws of the world were changed by the sound of a vina. Considering Abras did not live long enough to learn about the laws of the world and cultivators who could manipulate them, Michael had little to no knowledge about the world's laws. He could only sense the changes but couldn't understand them completely. The mysterious person who played the vina already had a terrifying level of understanding for the vina as well as the laws of the world. The descending celestial energy was forcefully trapped by the music. They paused for a while before slowly rising up the sky, being forcefully sent out of the region, eventually disappearing from the Angel Peak mountain. In the blink of an eye, the celestial energy that two core strengthening level 10 cultivators struggled to deal with, were nullified by a mysterious, hidden person in a couple of seconds. Soon, a dark blue-robed woman walked over slowly and gently from the distance. She was tall and her raven black, glossy hair fluttered in the wind. Her face was obscured by a dark yet slightly transparent veil, revealing her clear eyes. Her eyes were bright and as pretty as lotus petals. Her lean, slender fingers caressed the vina strings. She had the perfect hourglass structure that many women could only dream of. Gracefully she descended from the sky like an angel. She was clearly vastly different from ordinary girls. Although her appearance was hidden, it was not difficult to imagine how beautiful she was. In Michael's heart, Gaia was the prettiest girl he has ever met, but this woman dethroned even her. She was that beautiful. He could not help but take a step backward. This was not only because the woman's strength was terrifying, but also the skill she used to defeat the celestial energy itself. She used the vina to control everything in the surroundings and injure enemies. Her ability with the vina had already reached a shockingly scary level. "I greet mistress." The two women courteously greeted the blue-dressed lady with their vinas in their arms. Not only was she the mistress of Angel Peak Mountain Island, but she was also the master of the two of them. His eyes narrowed abruptly, and he called out huskily, "Wielder of Angel's vina, Lady Layla Alden." Michael slightly bowed to show his respect. He didn't dare to show any discourtesy as the woman was the strongest person he met ever since he came to this world, a freak infusion stage cultivator. The power she radiated was so great that he was only able to sense her stage, not the level. Layla Alden stood in the air with her vina while a colorful light flickered in her captivating eyes. She shifted her gaze slightly and looked towards Michael in the distance. Instantly, a sliver of surprise flashed across her calm eyes. A 5-star alchemist. I don't think we've met before," she said softly before silently mumbling under her breath. "It can't be a coincidence." Layla Alden's voice was extremely gentle, like the most pleasant tune in the world, yet also carried a bewitching charm. She was able to affect the moods of people from just her voice. Michael's mood was also wavered slightly by Layla Alden's bewitching voice and what. However, with his willpower, he tried to avoid being bewitched using all of his willpower. He did not think she intended to bewitch him, but the power gap between the two of them was so great that Michael felt like this. How did she find out? Michael's heart skipped a beat when she identified his specialization of alchemy with a single glance. "I'm called Ghost, Lady Alden, and I never got the honor of meeting you before." He had never been so respectful and courteous towards anyone until now. After all, he stood top of the world of assassins back on Earth. After coming to this world, with the system's help, he climbed the ladder fastly as he never needed to be afraid of anyone. Even when he faced Julius of Phoenix Island, he did not feel a sliver of fear because he had the system and the teleportation scroll with him to escape, but now, he had neither. Therefore, he decided to be rather respectful towards this Lady Alden, just like everyone else, than getting kicked off the island or worse, killed by her. Layla Alden stared at Michael unblinkingly with her pretty eyes for a while, before speaking gently. "If I'm right, you're a disciple of a sect called Sunrise." "You are right, Lady Alden. I'm indeed a core disciple of the Sunrise sect." Again Michael was surprised at the fact she actually knew about a declined sect in a backwater kingdom. How did she know? The question poked Michael's mind. Layla Alden gave a short nod before turning her gaze towards her students. "Johanna, Nerida, go have a look at his situation." "Yes, mistress." The two women replied courteously before flying towards the cave together and disappearing into it. Michael's eyes followed the two disciples as they moved, watching them disappear into the dark cave in the distance. He could not help but become curious, so he asked, "Lady Alden, just who is the person living in that cave? What just happened?" Layla Alden gazed towards the cave in the distance, and only after a few long moments, she started speaking slowly. He was cursed by one of the 8 great clans. An extremely powerful and complicated curse was placed in his soul, sealing his talent and preventing him from reaching the soul-refining stage. If the Celestine energy reaches his body, it would activate the curse in his mind, turning it into a battlefield. The curse would use the celestial energy and wipe out his soul from existence forever. Not even a 6-star healer can revive him after that 8 great clans? Michael repeated softly, his voice filled with a sliver of confusion. Looking at the bewildered expression on his face, she spoke gently, "Given the current situation, you should know about this. The 8 great clans are the most powerful organizations on the 4 continents. Most of them have existed for an extremely long time, having already existed even before the Guardian Guild had appeared in ancient times. Of the 8 clans, other than the Guardian Guild, humans have 2 more. Among the 5, elves, dwarves, beast men have 1 great clan each, while the seal folks have 2. Michael was stunned. He tried to look not too shocked. Until now, he thought defeating the Guardians Guild would make his path to become this world's ruler easier, but now, he realized that controlling the world will be harder than he imagined. Since he never left the Elon continent and Gaia had little knowledge about the other continents, it was natural for him to be clueless about the other great clans in this world. Layla Alden continued, "If it was any other elves, lifting the curse would have been easier, but the one who put the curse on him was an elven great mage of the elven great clan, the Archangels. You may have heard of this poor soul from your elders or your sect leader, huh?" As soon as he heard that, Michael was surprised. His expression changed several times before asking out, "Lady Alden, who is this person?" "His name is Christopher Marigold, your sect leader's grandfather. It seems the gods have sent you to help me save him," Layla Alden replied softly. He was completely stunned after hearing her words. Wasn't Claire's grandfather supposed to be dead? Michael asked himself. Claire herself told him her grandfather died during one of his adventures, and it was her father who went missing, which led to the downfall of the Sunrise sect. He always wondered how one man's disappearance could affect an entire sect, leading to such a poor state, but now, everything slowly started to make sense. If someone from a great clan like Guardian Guild put a complicated curse on Claire's grandfather, it would make sense for the great mage to hold a grudge and destroy everything the man built. Christopher Marigold? How can I help him? What is she talking about? Her lips slightly curved upwards, revealing an alluring smile. "You came here looking for me to save that death-kissed dragon, right?" She pointed at her fingers, and the very next moment, he felt something pulling out the baby dragon from him. The baby dragon hovered in the air without moving. His crimson-red scale had completely turned gray except for a few scales thanks to the healing potions. "Follow me," Layla Alden spoke softly, carrying a bewitching charm with her words. She then started to slowly descend and fly towards the cave before disappearing into the cave. Michael did not hesitate at all as he entered the cave in a flash. The cave was filled with fist-sized luminous pearls which gave off a soft light, illuminating the entire cave. When Michael had traveled 100 meters in, the space before him suddenly opened. He had arrived at a huge cavern of several dozen meters in radius. Currently, the walls were covered with cracks while some loose pebbles lay scattered across a floor covered with ditches. It was a mess. In the center of the cavern stood Johanna and Nerida. Meanwhile, a disheveled, tattered-clothed, beggar-like old man slept soundly before them. His body was emancipated due to lack of replenishment to his body and soul, and on the ragged robes he wore, Michael saw the familiar symbol, a rising sun. It was without a doubt the crest of the Sunrise sect. Michael looked at Layla to see her examining the baby dragon. "Go on, talk to him," her voice was extremely plain, without the slightest emotion. Initially, he wanted to save only the baby dragon, but now, he wanted to save this old man. It was not because he loved to see the old man reunite with his granddaughter, but if he could save the old man, he would have a powerful soul-refining stage cultivator protecting his base of operations. Plus, by lifting the curse and reuniting the family would make the old man loyal to him. This would make recruiting this old man as his subordinate easier in the future. With these thoughts in his mind, Michael gently walked over and stared fixedly at the old man on the ground. The old man's face was ancient and haggard. He was currently sleeping peacefully. "Johanna, Nerida, play the Song of Fairies melody." "Yes, mistress." The two women did not hesitate to cross-stare and place the veena on their lap. As their fingers moved slightly, a wonderful veena sound was immediately generated. It was gentle, filled with serenity. It seemed to be able to comfort the emotions of a person, to allow that person to calm down. When the music reached Michael's ears, his slightly excited and frantic feelings also disappeared very quickly, making his mind calm. Layla Alden touched a string of her veena with an elegant finger. With a slight trembling, a note appeared that immediately began to slowly wake the sleeping old man. Chapter 150. The sleeping old man slowly opened his eyes while a sliver of haggardness and great exhaustion appeared on his face. As he woke up, his mind jerked. He could not help but trigger the descent of the celestial energy to become a soul-refining stage cultivator, but the descent was immediately suppressed by the soft sounds of a veena. "I thank the island mistress for saving my life. This old man is unable to repay the mistress' aid." The old man looked towards Layla Alden dully. His voice was extremely weak as Michael could barely hear the words coming out of the old man's mouth. In his exhaustion and pain, he even failed to notice the baby dragon in Layla's hands. "No problem. I'm helping you because I feel nothing but pity for you." Layla Alden spoke indifferently before turning to Michael. "Make the best use of the time you have to ask what you need to ask. This melody will only temporarily suppress him, but it can't last very long." The soft sound of the melody was heard by Michael and made him feel extremely calm. He hesitated slightly before pulling out a pendant made of orange stone from his space ring and showed it to the old man. "Do you recognize this?" When the old man saw the pendant in Michael's hand, his expression changed greatly. He called out, This is, no, how could this be?" Michael became slightly excited, but his excitement was suppressed by the veena music. He stared fixedly at the old man before speaking. "Perhaps you recognize this jade pendant?" Michael took out another pendant. Unlike the previous pendant, the pendant he just took out had a glowing to it. He received this pendant from Claire after he became the core disciple of the sect. There were various different types of pendants, and all the people, from disciples to the teachers, elders, and guards, had one. Michael's pendant was the pendant given to a core disciple. The old man carried a mixed expression as a sliver of nostalgia appeared in his eyes. He recognized the origins of the pendant with a single glance, especially the morning sun's orange and the aged cracks on the pendant. He would never forget it, as it was created by no one but himself, decades ago. Where did you get this pendant?" the old man asked. His expression was extremely complicated, a mess of emotions emerged in his eyes. Right now, Michael had essentially confirmed his suspicions. He knew this man was Claire's grandfather, the previous leader of the Sunrise sect. "It was sect leader Claire who gave it to me." A gleam of light immediately flashed across the old man's eyes. He took a closer look at Michael before saying, "Are you a disciple of the Sunrise sect of Breedia?" The old man's voice trembled gently and carried a little excitement. Currently, even the Song of Fairies melody could no longer suppress his emotions. "Yes, I'm the core disciple of the sect." Michael also became excited. "System, can you be able to lift the curse after you come out of the safe mode?" "Yes." Hearing the system's answer, Michael's excitement skyrocketed despite the fact that he still didn't cure the baby dragon. The old man accepted the jade pendant from Michael's hand to examine it closely. He murmured to himself, "Claire, my little bear." The old man displayed emotions of reminiscence, and 2 trails of murky tears slowly flowed down his face. "Sect leader Christopher," Michael said respectfully. "Sect leader Christopher." The old man murmured before smiling at himself. "It's been countless years since someone addressed me like that." The old man weakly smiled. Behind his smile, Michael saw an immense pain. Great shock appeared in both Johanna and Nerida's eyes as they witnessed this, both still playing the veena. The young man who appeared out of nowhere was actually a disciple of the old man's sect. The sudden change of events greatly stunned the two of them. Christopher wiped off the ears with great difficulty. How is Claire?" Just how is the sect after so much time? Christopher asked. Sect leader Claire is doing just fine, but I can tell you that she's missing you every single day, and don't worry about the sect. Everything's perfectly fine. Michael lied because he did not want to reveal the sorry state of the sect and depress the old man even further. That little girl has become a sect leader. Christopher revealed a smile of relief on his sallow face. He continued, so many years have passed. Is Elder Sandra still alive? You have nothing to worry about, sect leader. Everyone is just fine. Michael reassured the old man again. He wouldn't forgive himself if he let the old man die of a heart attack before he could recruit Christopher as his subordinate. Youngman, I don't think I would last long enough to see my little girl. Christopher scurried the ground beside him to fish out a jade box. Please, give this to her. She deserves this. Michael did not accept the jade box but asked him in concern, sect leader, what happened to you? How did you get cursed by an elven great mage? Michael seemed to touch on the source of Christopher's pain. It caused his eyes to become dull, while deep sorrow appeared on his face. Only after a while did he begin speaking. If I don't tell you now, Claire may not know what happened to her family forever. Christopher let out a long sigh. The color of reminiscence appeared in his eyes as he murmured, Claire is not a pure-blooded human. She was born to my son and an elven general, Elisha of the House Elican. The old man's words shook Michael's heart. He never thought Claire was a half-elf. Marrying a human was a forbidden act in elven lands, but because the love they had for each other made Elisha elope with my son, Christopher said with an immense regret behind his voice. I helped them settle in Breedia. We were a happy family. Young man, tears rolled out of the old man's eyes, his mouth curved upwards thinking about the happiest memories. The day Claire born was the happiest days of our life. We had everything until, the old man paused, a glimmer of anger rose within his eyes, until the elven mage found us during one of our family outings. Elisha fought with the mage, giving us the time to escape, but the elven mage was too powerful. He captured her and cursed me and my son before teleporting to the elven lands. Claire was too little at that time to remember what happened to her mother. For Claire, her mother passed away. My son and I tried our best to fight the curse and rescue Elisha, but my son died fighting the curse. It should have been me. Michael could see the pain and anger in the old man's eyes. Even he himself felt a sliver of anger at those elves. They could have simply banished Elisha, letting her live her own life, but instead of doing that, they destroyed a happy little family. I never thought your family and the elves have a history. What they did to all of you is horrible, Michael said, feeling sorry for them. Then he turned his gaze towards Layla. Lady Alden, you said I may be able to help him. Tell me, what do I need to save them both? Only now the old man looked closer at Layla to see the grayish baby dragon. His eyes instantly widened in shock, standing to one side. She watched the scene with no emotions on her face. After a slight pause, she said, yes, I know a way to help him and heal this dragon, but it will not be an easy thing. In fact, there's a strong possibility that you will die if you chose to help them. When Michael and Christopher heard what she had said, both of their eyes glowed immediately while the light of hope began to shine in their hearts. Michael asked hurriedly, Lady Alden, if there's something I can do to help them both, I will do it in a heartbeat. He did not back off from saving the baby dragon just because of her words. This was the time for him to take a risk. If anything goes wrong, he could always buy a teleportation scroll and escape. He was grateful to the system for at least letting him buy a teleportation scroll regardless of its current state. The system urges the host to take this risk. Just as he was thinking about the risk, he heard the system's voice in his head. It almost sounded like a plea. He frowned, but since he already decided to take this risk, he did not ask any question to the system. Layla said slowly, there is something called demon dragon heart in the treacherous ocean. It's condensed soul energy left behind by an ancient demon dragon. Although it won't break the seal, if you can find the heart, you can temporarily suppress the curse in his soul and cure the death kiss. He can then live at least for another 200 or 300 years of his life without suffering. Treacherous ocean, huh? He said with a deep voice. Shortly afterward, the light in his eyes glowed bright and brighter. For Michael, 200 years were more than enough to lift this curse because he did not plan to let the system continue being on the safe mode. If he could bring the system back online and get the price of lifting the curse, he would eventually earn enough points to save the old man. Chapter 151. No, the treacherous ocean is the second most dangerous place on the Elon continent, after the demon's grave. Even if Soul Refiner enters it, they might not be able to return. And something as great as the heart would only grow in the depths of the treacherous ocean. The dangers in the depths are several times deadlier than those on the outskirts. Youngman, you must not go to the treacherous ocean. I can't let you sacrifice your life to save this old bag, Christopher said sternly. He was a disciple of one of the great clans. He read plenty of books about the dangers of the world, including the treacherous ocean. As a result, he knew about the treacherous ocean extremely well. Sect leader, I'm not doing this solely for you, I'm doing this for the both of you. Just like how much you love your granddaughter, I love that little dragon. If this demon dragon heart could save him, I will get it. With the heart, I can not only save him but also suppress your curse. You can't just give up and die, sect leader, your granddaughter deserves better, she needs you, Michael spoke resolutely. He needed to go to the treacherous ocean, no matter how great the dangers were, to save the baby dragon. He did not fear it at all, as he had a gut feeling that this trip may bring the system back online. Christopher, your disciple fought the celestial energy without getting himself blown to death. Although it is rather dangerous to him, I think he can take care of himself if he's careful. Layla's nature-like voice appeared from one side. What? You survived fighting the Celestine energy descent? Christopher immediately became stunned. He stared blankly at Michael while great billows blew in his heart. For Michael, he did not realize how great a feat that he survived fighting the celestial energy descend. If he had known before that he could have exploded into a bloody mist, he wouldn't have chosen to even get near the celestial energy. It was the reason the two students of Layla were stunned to see him disrupt the celestial energy while being a mere body-strengthening cultivator. I could have died. Those bitches, having heard the way Lialha talked about him surviving the celestial energy, he realized that it was a miracle he survived. He cursed at the two women who pushed him into the fight, knowing that he could die made him want to kick the crap out of them. What if I died? The mere question put a few cold sweats on his back. Michael showed those grave thoughts behind his head, nodding slightly. Sect leader, you should believe that I have the strength now. I'll definitely find this demon dragon heart in the treacherous ocean and save you both, he reassuringly patted the old man's hand before leaving the cave. Raising his head, he looked at the cloudless blue sky before sighing deeply. He slowly suppressed his jumpy emotions. Today's encounters were like a dream to him. He had never thought that he would find the supposed to be the dead grandfather of Claire on the Rainbow Islands, where he came looking for the so-called doctor who then turned out to be Layla Alden. Copycat, 8 great clans, celestial energy, damn, this day has been a ride, he exhaled deeply. Well, why am I still thinking that this Layla is hiding something? He rubbed his chin when he heard Layla's voice from behind. You need to think this through. What you seek can only be found in the depths of the treacherous ocean. Do you really plan on going? Layla's voice appeared from behind. He turned back to see her gracefully walking towards him carrying the baby dragon in her hand. There seemed to be ripples in her eyes. They were alluring, as if they could suck in the souls of people, which stunned Michael. However, with Michael's willpower, he did not lose composure. Please inform me of the whereabouts, Lady Alden. Layla stared fixedly into Michael's eyes. Michael did not show any signs of retreat and stared back at her. He remained calm throughout. This lasted for a while before Layla finally nodded. The treacherous ocean is known for its illusions. Various apparitions will appear, and the deeper you go, the stronger the illusions become. If you even slightly lose focus, you will become lost within. Your willpower should be enough to barely handle ordinary illusions. Without this death-kissed dragon, you asked me the same question, I would have just given you a map and sent you on your way, but this is a blessing in disguise. I knew she's up to something. Deep within those serene eyes, Michael noticed a hidden intention thanks to his ability to read people. You can't notice this, but this dragon radiates both the aura of the living and the dead because its soul is half a step into the realm of the dead. Using this dragon's aura, one can avoid being detected by most of the apparitions in the treacherous ocean. Since this decreases the danger of traveling into the ocean by several folds, and the demon dragon's heart is also extremely useful to me. I'll come with you, she said while caressing the baby dragon's grayish scale. He was still lying dormant in her hands. Aren't I a lucky bastard? Hearing her words, Michael was pleasantly surprised and his confidence in this trip into the treacherous ocean increased greatly. Although he still didn't know the full extent of her power, she was able to change the laws of the world as well as disperse the celestial energy through her vena melody, which was shocking enough. Soon after Layla discussed something with her students, Michael and Layla headed for the treacherous ocean together, leaving behind Johanna and Nerida to guard the island. The sky was fine and cloudless, it fused with the northern seas far away, as if it was a beautiful piece of art. With a slight wave of her hands, she covered both of them with celestial energy to soar through the sky. Michael's body jerked before they already became faint blurs, shooting across the sky silently as there was not even a whistling of the wind. Lady Alden, if you don't mind me asking, can you tell more about the sea folk? As they flew, Michael asked, looking towards Layla. At first, he wanted to ask why was she healing a few people of royal land under the name of the doctor, but weirdly, she did not ask him how did he find her identity. Therefore, Michael did not choose to question her intentions in case she had her own selfish reasons that she did not want him to know. Considering even his encyclopedia of this world, Gaia, had little to no knowledge about the so-called sea folk, he decided to get some info on them from Layla. A sliver of shock flashed across Layla's eyes. She turned and glanced at Michael, asking, "Why do you want to learn about the sea folk?" Michael hesitated slightly before saying, "To be honest, as a guy who loves to travel around the world, I want to know more about the places and races I have little knowledge of. People in Breedia don't have much knowledge about the sea folk race." Lady Alden, she stared at him for a moment. She could tell he was genuinely interested in knowing more about the sea folk, and since they have a long way to go, she didn't mind telling what she knew about the sea folk to pass the time. Their existence is similar to magical beasts. They also cultivate by absorbing the arch energy and can take human forms and speak human language. They don't possess intelligence any weaker than humans either. The sea folk race inhabits the very bottom of the sea and takes up a rather large region of the oceans, while the entire region is encased by an extremely powerful barrier. This barrier was created personally by the water god during primordial times, and even fusion stage cultivators like me can't break the barrier. Not only does it separate the seawater, it holds it back at a range of several thousand meters. At the same time, it protects the sea folk from invasions of another species. She paused for a moment and went on, "To the sea folk, this barrier acts as if it doesn't exist. Although it's unbreakable to most of the people on land, it will let anyone under the core strengthening stage enter the sea domain. Anyone under core strengthening stage." He took a note in his mind as she continued, "I've visited the sea folk twice before. Although I don't know the situation there very well, I have some rough, general knowledge like they not only hate humans, but they also disapprove of them very much. If human experts want to survive there, they must be extremely cautious. Once they offend a member of the sea folk race, they will receive the hatred and pursuit of various other sea folks until they die or escape from the sea domain, which is very unlikely once the sea folks put a target on them." Michael pondered in silence for a while before continuing his questions. "Lady Alden, just how powerful is the sea folk? Compared to the humans in the Elon continent, are they stronger or weaker?" "The sea folk is very powerful," Layla said sternly. "In the ancient times, all the races except the sea folks waged war with each other for resources, lands, and whatnot. All sides suffered great losses, and several half-immortals fell, ending their legacies. Since the sea folk never took part in these ancient wars, their strengths and legacies were preserved perfectly. Although there aren't as many half-immortals across the entire sea folk as the ancient times, it's still not something the Elon continent or the beings living on the land can match. It's just that the sea folk evolved from marine organisms, so they're only made to inhabit the sea. In the sea, it's much easier for them to achieve greater results in cultivation. But once they leave the sea, cultivation becomes several-fold more difficult. They have always stayed in the sea and have basically never come to the land. This is because the sea is their holy land." Chapter 152, The Sea Folk race is split into mainly three factions: the Water God Hall, the Sea Serpent Hall, and the Arctic Hall. These three halls combine to make one of the two great clan of sea folks. According to what I've learned many years ago, the Water God Hall is the most powerful among the three and has an elder that has already reached the half-immortal stage. The other two halls each have one or two fusion stage warriors as well. This was many years ago. Who knows how many fusion stage and half immortals or even immortals they have among them. For the first time, he heard a sliver of awe in her voice. One half immortal and two fusion stage warriors. Wow, Michael was also astonished by listening to Layla. As she said, this was years ago. He could only imagine how powerful they are now. He did not think any one of the races living on the land was weak, but because the sea folk never took part in any wars, he knew their strength is far superior to the land crawlers. If he could, he wanted to visit the sea folks soon. He had gained a rather rough understanding of the sea folks from Layla. After getting some ideas about the sea folks, he continued to ask Layla about the other races along the way, slowly expanding his knowledge about this world. The ocean they were flying above was enormous, several times larger than the Elon continent. Even though the treacherous ocean was very close to Rainbow Island, it took the two of them a full day and night of flying at such a speed before finally arriving. The treacherous ocean was a region of sea shrouded in a dark mist and stormy clouds. The sound of thunderclaps reverberated the entire sea while violet streaks of lightning kept lighting the gloomy clouds. The ocean itself seemed endless. Currently, Michael and Layla hovered in the sky a couple of kilometers away, staring at the mist cautiously. Layla knew that Michael's understanding of the treacherous ocean was limited, so she explained, the real dangers of the treacherous ocean lies in an island within the thick mist. We need to pass through the mist to reach there. You must never underestimate this mist. It's extremely powerful and strange. As soon as you enter it, all your sensory abilities will be suppressed, and your vision will also be greatly affected. Michael nodded, immediately becoming vigilant. The treacherous ocean was a dangerous zone, second only to the demon's grave. He could already see his environmental scanning is being disrupted by some kind of interference. System, can you upgrade the environmental scanning? Unable to upgrade spells. The system is in safe mode. Michael kinda expected this, but it did not hurt to try. Since he got no help from the system, he had to rely solely on himself, on his skills as a hitman/assassin. Let's go in. Follow me closely and don't stray away from me. You might see some illusions in the mist, but you need to remember that all of them are just illusions. Layla spoke with a soft voice, before handing over the baby dragon back to him. She then placed Angel's Vina into her left hand and gently played her other hand onto the strings. Seeing how cautious Layla was, Michael raised his own vigilance by taking out a few shiny bright orange pills and eating them like candy. The pills he just took were the perception pills. He concocted these pills as the new badge using a few herbs he brought from the Sky Garden. The perception pills had the ability to increase the consumer's sensors and perception by approximately 4 times, and because his environmental scanning is being disrupted by the treacherous ocean, these pills helped him stay keen about the surroundings. Although the pills were not as great as the environmental scanning, taking the pills was better than nothing. It only took a couple of seconds before he felt his senses getting heightened. He turned to see even the smallest details of Layla's robes, like those few dust particles on the robes, the teeny tiny birthmark on her slender neck that he didn't notice before. Lady Alden, you want some? He quickly stopped checking her out and asked her. No, thanks, she gently shook her head. He shrugged, putting the baby dragon into his pocket, and moved closer to Layla before they slowly flew towards the fog together. As soon as he entered the fog, Michael felt like he had stepped into another world. It was misty white all over. Even with his heightened vision, he could only see 5 meters ahead. Even with your dragon's aura around us, we'll encounter some attacks in this mist. Be careful. Layla's voice appeared on one side. Michael unsheathed his sword as he did not underestimate this place, not even for a bit. The two of them advanced carefully. They did not travel very fast, while the light in their eyes flickered, carefully observing the surroundings. At that very moment, a white light suddenly appeared, shooting like a lightning bolt towards Layla. Be careful. Michael cried out, directly slashing his sword at the light. Ding! However, Layla's reaction speed was faster than Michael's. The finger she had placed on the Vina strings plucked gently, and a note rang out. It turned into a sound wave, colliding with the white light before Michael's sword could cut it. The ball of white light turned into a pile of dust and fell from the sky without any sound. Michael stared blankly at the pile of dust, What is that? Just a moment ago he did not manage to see what the ball of white light was. Those are mutated fish that inhabit the nearby water. Its speed is especially quick, and this fish has already reached the strength of level 5 body refining beast. Layla spoke indifferently. She clearly had an extremely great understanding of the place. Hearing this, Michael was secretly shocked. People like Victoria were boasting about their cultivation speed when they were at the level 5 body refining stage, but here, even a mere fish was at that exact level. A cultivator could manage to easily kill the fish just how Layla did, but Michael knew if those fishes came to attack with hundreds of its friends, they would be in deep trouble. Coupled with the limited vision thanks to the mist, even a core formation warrior could be killed if hundreds of these fishes attacked together. The two of them continued their way in the mist. After the attack from the weird fish earlier, he became even more watchful of his surroundings. The last time he checked, the responsive shield was still working, therefore, he did not need to worry about the attacks of anything under body strengthening stage level 6. However, he could tell that he's going to meet stronger foes further down in the road. As they advanced deeper and deeper, the weird mist also became thicker and thicker. Michael's heightened range of vision had already shrunken to 2 meters. Crossing the 2 meters, he could see nothing but the misty white screen. For others, looking through the eyes was the only way to see, but for Michael, he trained to perceive the surroundings using all of his senses. He listened and smelled on top of looking to be aware of the mist. Even though Layla's figure started to become blurrier, he followed her behind, smelling the alluring fragrance coming from her. Lady Alden, just how big is this area? How much further until we leave this damn region? We need to travel roughly 100 kilometers more to get out of this mist. With our current speed, it should take 5 or 6 hours. If we are lucky, Layla spoke calmly while her bewitching eyes flickered, vigilantly observing the surroundings. At that very moment, another few streaks of white light shot from the surroundings with lightning speed just like before, except, this time Michael had sensed them thanks to his enhanced hearing. He swiftly slashed at the 2 streaks of white light without moving his body too much. There was no fancy move, just a plain simple slash, but it was lethal enough to take 2 lives. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a body refining stage level 8 mutated beast. The reward is 6,000 experience points and 200 badass points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a body refining stage level 8 mutated beast. The reward is 6,000 experience points and 200 badass points. Soon, the 2 white streaks of light turned into dust, falling near his feet. Just as he lifted his sword to kill the rest of them, a clear note suddenly rang out. It turned into a visible sound wave that expanded into the surroundings. As the streaks of light came into contact with the sound wave, they immediately turned into a pile of dust, ripped apart by the Vina note. Michael narrowed his eyes slightly in a way it could not be detected. His recognition for the woman's strength increased by a level. She could display such strength with just a casual note. Even if these fishes were at the core formation stage, he could tell that they would not be able to withstand the power of her notes. Continuing onwards, Michael and Layla both suffered constant attacks from the mutated fish. With each wave of the attack, the number of fishes that attacked them increased significantly. Fortunately for Michael, they didn't get attacked by fishes stronger than a body strengthening stage 5. He slashed and diced them effortlessly. This put a small smile on his face as he acquired quite a lot of experience points killing these fishes. He would have killed more if Layla didn't massacre the majority of the fishes of each wave with a single note from her Vina. The 2 of them flew steadily through the fog for 7 continuous hours before passing through the region of fog and reaching the outskirts of the treacherous ocean. The deeper they went, the thicker the mist became. After over 8 kilometers, the mist had become so thick that he could barely see anything. Only the faint fragrance at Michael's nose signified her existence. This made Michael rely on his nose to detect where she is, using the fragrance from her body. Suddenly, Michael felt the mist before him surge violently. Shortly afterward, a blurry figure suddenly appeared, before quickly becoming clearly visible. It was a man in his late 60s. He wore a black suit and black trousers. In one hand, he held a bloody knife while in the other, he held a silencer-attached Beretta 92. Michael stared blankly at the old man who was smiling wickedly at him. His emotions were overwhelmed by disbelief. Along with disbelief, in Michael's eyes, a cocktail of anger, fear, and respect could be seen. Diddle. Diddle. Diddle, we are so little, the old man slowly uttered these words, stirring the buried emotions deep within his heart. Spectre. Michael unconsciously called out. His voice was filled with rage, and even his eyes became rather bloodshot. Chapter 153. Michael's heart began to tremble violently, and he tightly clenched his hands. He knew that it was an illusion from the mist, so he was unable to do anything about it. All he could do was remain clear-headed and not fall into it. At that very exact moment, Michael's body jerked violently. To his side, he suddenly saw a redhead girl who seemed to be in her late 20s walking out of the mist to stand next to the old man. Just like the old man, she too wore a black suit and trousers with a black tie, but her white shirt was drenched in blood. You killed me." Suddenly, the girl, with her bloody face, saw Michael and cried out. Her voice was extremely miserable, it contained a mix of anger as well as sadness. Soon after the girl, more and more black-suited people drenched in blood appeared out of the mist. All of their bodies were littered with bullet holes. Michael's body began to tremble violently while a monstrous killing intent had already appeared in his heart. Just when he was staring at the 20 people he knew extremely well, more figures walked out of the mist, and this time, they weren't grown men in black suits but gentle-looking women and little children. The commonality between the latter and the black-suited people was they all had bloody wounds. This is all an illusion. Spectre is dead, all of his students are dead, I killed them, Michael constantly mumbled to himself, forcing himself to calm down. Although he knew this was all just an illusion, what was happening was actually Michael's greatest anguish. "Aren't you gonna save me, Michael?" the girl called out for help once again. Her despaired voice was heard by Michael, slowly piercing Michael's heart. "Arg!" A miserable cry came from the other side. He turned to see one of the gentle-looking women was shot in the chest by one of the black-suited people. The woman collapsed in a pool of blood. Her clothes were dyed red by the blood, and even the ground had become red. The children were screaming in horror, but it just put a wicked grin on the black suit man's face as he slowly made his way towards the children like a tiger hunting a group of helpless rabbits. "Michael. Michael, save them." The woman who got shot by the man looked towards Michael lifelessly, and spoke weakly. The light in her eyes was quickly disappearing, soon becoming dull. In the end, she laid on the ground, unmoving. Michael's heart trembled greatly, while overwhelming anger and sadness clenched his heart. 2 streaks of sorrowful tears flowed from his eyes without any control. Although he trained himself to overcome the emotions, he failed to keep himself calm seeing the sight in front of him. It was an unimaginable mental blow to Michael to see the orphanage he grew up getting slaughtered by the black suit man. After he cleansed the arms dealing operations that put him in the path of becoming a hitman, he killed every single person who had a link to the criminal organization that ran the orphanage. It was his training. After cleansing the orphanage, he really thought the orphans there could have a better life than him, yet, it was the same man who trained him who ordered the massacre of his orphanage. Knowing that he was the reason for their deaths was Michael's greatest grief and regret. The illusion conjured by the mist had already deeply affected Michael. "I asked you to kill one kid, only one, Ghost. If you hadn't refused, they would have been alive right now, well except for that one kid, Spectre," the old man said, playing with his pistol. The sight of his smiling broke the barrier that's suppressing Michael's anger. "Arg!" Michael roared powerfully at the sky. The sound was earth-shaking, resounding in the entire region. With the roar, an immense murderous aura, along with extremely dense killing intent, began to radiate from his body. The arch-energy in his body poured steadily into the sword, causing it to glow brightly with its dark light. Afterward, Michael swung it towards the old man who was smiling at him. Thrum. Suddenly, a loud and clear vena sound, like a huge bell, appeared. A powerful sound wave with visible ripples collided with the sword in his hand, and the powerful strike directly forced the sword to bounce backward. Not only did the bell-like sound block Michael's attack, but the remaining sound waves also entered Michael's mind. It collided with his spirit like a boulder, causing Michael to feel like his head was exploding. He could not help but cry out painfully. Just mere, inferior illusions got you good. This is only the very outskirts of the treacherous ocean. There are more powerful illusions further on in. I really wonder how you're going to handle those. Layla's cold voice suddenly appeared in Michael's mind. Michael immediately snapped back to reality. A moment ago, when he had swung his sword at the enemies that killed his orphanage, he actually swung the sword at Layla, not at the old man. The illusions here really are powerful, Michael mumbled gently. His emotions, affected by the illusions before, slowly began to calm down. The illusion wasn't strong, your mental state is too weak. The illusion sucked you in so easily. It originates from your heart and mind. If your heart and mind are flawless and free from worries, how would a mere illusion affect you? This illusion can be considered as the weakest type. There'll be more powerful ones once you enter the treacherous ocean. Layla spoke coldly. Looks like I'm overestimating you. Perhaps coming to the treacherous ocean with you was the wrong decision. She didn't change her cold tone at all. Her words really bothered him, but he agreed with her. Although he trained himself to suppress his emotions, he did not achieve perfection as Spectre. He couldn't be even compared with Layla in mental power. After all, he was still too young. Even with his 2 lifetimes combined, he was less than 60 years old. Meanwhile, people like Layla were people who had lived for centuries with enough descendants to form a large house. Michael may overcome them in terms of talent because of the system, but he was nowhere close in terms of life experience. The illusion was able to mess him up too much because of the bond he had with the orphanage and the people who lived there. Michael treated them with too much importance, practically viewing them as more important than his own life at one point in his life. He had clearly known that the images in the mist before were illusions, yet he still could not help but fall for them. Michael still was unable to endure the things happening despite knowing it was all fake. That day, he lost everyone who knew the real him. After that day, he became Ghost. The reason he chanced diddle diddle before killing was to remind himself not to become like the man who trained him, Spectre. Never take a life without a reason and conscience. This was Michael's code. People like Layla on the other hand would not fall for illusions such as this as easily as Michael. They had lived for centuries, or even millennia, and had plenty of descendants. They probably have witnessed some of them dying of old age themselves. As a result, they would no longer treat the bond of the family as important and would be able to resist the illusions easily. Illusions originated from the mind and heart. If there were concerns or obsessions, the mist would create illusions accordingly, displaying your weakest point right before you. Illusions did not test a person's strength, but a person's heart and mind. He may have seemed like an invulnerable perfect person, but he was just a human being with his own flaws and imperfections at the end of the day. Michael's mind became much more resolute after experiencing what had happened before. He stared into the mist before him. The mist continued to surge, tossing about and changing around as if there was something ready to come out. However, Michael's state of mind immediately became like still water, free of any ripples. He did not think about anything, nor did he guess about anything. The silhouettes of the people instantly vanished from his sight except the old man's figure. He was following Michael. Michael ignored the old man, continuing to follow Layla. After over 2 hours of slow flying, he and Layla finally passed through the region of fog. The misty white blanket had finally disappeared from before them, replaced by deep blue seawater. Hiya, Michael breathed out loudly. He felt much more relaxed after passing through the mist. He looked around but only saw that the surroundings and sky were all a surface of white. They were enveloped by a layer of dense, yet odd, mist as if it formed the edges of a separate world. The only thing still lingered around from the mist was Spectre, but Michael knew the old man was in his head, not in front of him, so he ignored Spectre. Below him was deep blue seawater. The water was smooth, like a mirror, and without any ripples, stagnant. It was extremely strange. In the center of all that was a huge island. It had an extremely large surface area and did not seem like it could be called an island, but rather a small continent. The island was mountainous, littered with trees, and was entirely blanketed by a thin layer of fog. It was hazy, adding on a layer of mysteriousness. Michael stared cautiously at the huge island before him and asked, "Is this the treacherous ocean?" Layla looked towards the island before her. She was rather stern, and she said, "Correct, this is the treacherous ocean, as well as the holy land of the former dragon clan, Dragon Island. Many millennials ago, there were not 8 but 9 great clans, the strongest of them all was the Dragon Clan. But something happened to them and changed the once great Dragon Clan to the current treacherous ocean. What happened to all those dragons?" Michael asked in doubt. Layla shook her head gently. "I do not know much about what happened in that age either. The very limited information on this matter all originate from rumors or those ancient records in the kingdom of Nagas. However, not a lot is recorded regarding what happened to the dragons who lived in that age or to the Dragon Island." Chapter 154. Alright, let's stop guessing about this, there's no point. We're currently on the outskirts of the treacherous ocean. Remember, the fog was not the real danger, the real dangers are on this island. When we enter the island, we have to be extra careful. The demon dragon's heart should be in the very center of the island. Michael and Layla both flew towards the island, landing on it soon after. In ancient times, the Dragon Clan filled this with formations. These formations automatically absorb the arch energy and even celestial energy to replenish themselves. Although it's been countless centuries since they were first laid down, a few that were set by remarkable experts still remain. They may not be as powerful as before, but we still need to be on guard. Layla explained to Michael in detail about some areas that he needed to be aware of on the island. Michael observed the island as he listened to Layla talk. They had already passed through the region of mist. Fortunately, his sight was no longer obstructed and much clearer now. The two of them slowly walked forwards, both were extremely careful as they traveled. At this very moment, the ground suddenly began to violently shake. 4 rock walls rose from the ground, forming a room and trapping the two of them inside. The rock walls radiated with a faint, golden luster while extremely powerful and pure energy vaguely being radiated from the rock walls. Soon afterward, stone spears coated in golden light began to arise from the walls. With whistling sounds, they shot towards the entrapped Michael and Layla at lightning speed. Dense clusters of spears shot from all directions, locking the two of them out of any paths for escape. There was only the misty white sky left for them to flee. Michael prepared himself to take off to the sky when he was stopped by Layla. "Remember, you must never fly above 10 meters in the sky. The dangers in the sky are several times greater than on the ground." Layla's cold voice sounded in Michael's ears as she faced the spears calmly and unperturbed. Shortly afterward, she gently struck a string with her finger. The next moment, a vina note reverberated in the area. It spread out in all directions as a visible wave of sound. The sound wave contained an unbelievable power. Wherever it passed by, the rock spears disintegrated, turning into a pile of dust in the air. The visible sound wave cut through the surroundings like a hot knife through butter before colliding forcefully with the rock walls that trapped them in. With a rumble, the walls trembled violently before crumbling to the ground. The confining rock walls could only be used against anyone under the core formation stage. It was nothing to a fusion stage cultivator like Layla. However, it would be almost guaranteed death if Michael alone had been trapped by it. Breaking out of the rock walls, Michael and Layla continued on their way, walking directly towards the general region of the island. In the following part of the journey, they both experienced constant attacks from various traps. However, these attacks were not prepared for a fusion stage cultivator. Because of that, they were unable to pose much of a threat to Layla. The journey was frightening, but not very dangerous. Roar! Suddenly, a loud beast roared in the distance. The ground began to shake gently as a humanoid giant of over 15 meters in height ran towards them from afar at an exceptional speed, constantly roaring along the way. "A rock golem," Layla calmly muttered. The rock golem ahead radiated an aura of a level 4 core formation warrior. Soon, her finger moved gently on the vina string, and a sound wave immediately shot out towards the incoming war beast in the shape of a sharp arrow. Cruck! The arrow formed from sound pierced through Rock Golem's chest. Rock Golem's overwhelmingly powerful defense was akin to soft butter before it, and the arrow punched a head-sized hole with no difficulty. Yet, no blood flowed out. The rock golem seemed to feel no pain, continuing onwards towards the two of them with great steps as it roared mindlessly along the way. Layla remained the same as before. Her white, elegant hands constantly danced around on the strings of her vina, producing beautiful sounds by playing it. With each note, a powerful sound wave shot out with lightning speed and struck rock golem's body. The rock golem did not dodge at all and continued in its charge towards the two of them in a straight line. Meanwhile, its huge, 15-meter-tall body was now riddled with holes while its head was already smashed to smithereens. But even with all that, even with its head missing, the rock golem did not die. It did not even slow down, much less show pain. It continued charging at the two of them without any pauses. Witnessing something so huge and dangerous as the golem, he felt grateful towards Layla because he knew he had a very slim chance to defeat the golem. Well, the number one hitman of the world is hiding behind a woman. I thought I taught you better. The old man laughed at Michael, but he ignored the old man's ridicule. Gentle vina sounds, concealing killing intent within, constantly rang out. Layla's gaze remained calm throughout. Her right hand danced about on the vina strings, sending out waves of powerful sound at the huge rock golem. Rock golem's injuries became even worse after receiving such dense attacks. Its two limbs were quickly severed, while a large portion of its chest shattered. It had shrunk to 110 meters in height from the original 15. Any other magical beasts or living beings would have passed away long ago if they were in such a state. It was guaranteed death. However, the rock golem behaved as if it was completely uninjured, its remaining half of the abdomen and its huge, thick legs continuing to run with huge steps. Each and every step caused the ground to tremble constantly. Rock golem was soon less than a kilometer away from the duo. Looking at rock golem, he prepared himself for a serious battle. Tiny cracks of golden lightning had started to dance around his fingertips. At that very moment, consecutive closely packed and frantic vina notes rang out. Layla's right hand had slid across the vina, playing 3 of the 7 strings together. Immediately, a series of densely packed sound waves radiated outwards, filling up space before them with visible ripples. The ripples joined together like a spider web, before quickly shooting towards the rock golem like a fishnet. The fishnet of sound passed through rock golem's body without any obstructions and disappeared into the distance. Soon, the huge rock golem collapsed loudly. Its entire body had become cubes of rock that fell to the ground, carved into countless pieces by the net of sound waves. Michael stared at the countless pieces of the rock golem curiously. After this battle, he couldn't help but wonder how powerful a fusion stage rock would be. Lady Alden, is every golem this powerful? Michael asked Layla. His heart was filled with curiosity and awe. After a short moment of silence, Layla replied, no, the reason for its strength was the treacherous ocean itself. This place mutates everything. The beasts here have no soul, they can't feel any pain, and they are practically an indestructible army. Indestructible army, huh? Michael mumbled softly, imagining an army of these golems and beasts under his command. The rock golem in front of you cannot be killed, no matter what you do. Even if you obliterate its body, it'll recover in no time, Layla continued. The countless pieces of stones on the ground began to move about in one place as soon as she finished speaking, as if it was providing evidence for her statement. It condensed into the 15 meters tall rock golem once again after just a short while. Its body was completely unharmed, and even its head had recovered to how it was before without the slightest sign of injury. Michael's pupils narrowed to the size of a needle, and he immediately gasped coldly. He exclaimed in wonder, my horizons really have been broadened today. Michael turned to Layla and asked, Lady Alden, so how would one kill this rock golem? Although the golem consumes a great amount of energy every time it reconstructs its body, its strength will decrease slightly. So, there's only one way to handle it, kill the golem until it's used up so much energy that it can't rebuild its body, Layla said. We can always run away, she said, but he felt like she was testing his knowledge. Lady Alden, I think if we do that, it'd just keep following us. Also, I don't think we can move around carelessly in this place. Once we let it follow us, the commotion might draw the attention of even more mutated beasts. Good, she nodded as he gave an answer she wanted. After putting some distance between them and the recovering rock golem, Layla started to attack the golem again, and this time, Michael joined the fight by sending bolts of lightning at the golem. Under their teamwork, the rock golem did not last very long at all before being obliterated once again. However, its body quickly began to rebuild once again. It gave out an earth-trembling roar and attacked them mindlessly. For Layla, Golem's moves were slow, but it was an entirely different matter for Michael, who was just a body-strengthening stage cultivator. However, the perception pills and his natural instincts came to the play as he continued to evade Golem's punches until it was obliterated completely. The rock golem was destroyed into countless pieces of stones by Michael and Layla time after time. Its strength decreased greatly every time it rebuilt its body. After killing it a dozen or so times, the rock golem was finally unable to restore its body due to the overconsumption of energy. Its diced body parts lay scattered on the ground. Since Layla was the one who dealt the final blow every time, he did not get any badass points or experience points at all, but he valued his life more than the badass points or experience points. Layla walked over leisurely from afar with her Vina in her arms. She did not even look at the rock golem. Let's go. The commotion from before was too loud. Other magical beasts are probably going to rush over here very soon. Look at you, running away like a chicken. The old man's figure appeared again behind him and snickered before they left the area. Chapter 155. Michael glanced deeply at the countless pieces of stones of the golem. He did not say anything and silently followed Layla away. Just as the two of them traveled several kilometers, they immediately felt several powerful presences appear behind them. They were all from magical beasts and golems that had reached the core strengthening stage. Not too long afterward, another dozen or so weaker presences appeared from behind, all of which were at the core formation stage. Michael looked back. Through the thin mist, he could see several human figures and silhouettes of huge magical beasts currently pacing mindlessly around the golem. Michael understood that they were the same as the golem, Bians that were made an unknown number of years ago by the Dragon Clan. They had neither intelligence nor souls and moved about according to their instincts. Come closer and keep the Death-Kiss Dragon's aura around us and don't make any signs to alert them. We may not fear them, but getting tangled with them will be problematic. Layla whispered to him. Lady Alden, I can vaguely see humanoid creatures back there. What are those? They are those who ventured into the treacherous ocean and died many millennia ago. Just like everything else here, they too have no soul and feel no pain. Just how many of those things are there? Michael asked another question. His face didn't have the usual cool smile as he seemed very serious. All these beings in the treacherous ocean possessed indestructible bodies. They felt no pain and had no fear. If the two of them were surrounded by these mutated beasts, it would be extremely troublesome or even life-threatening. The treacherous ocean has already existed for countless years. During that period of time, plenty of human experts and intelligent beasts have ventured into it. Some of these have fallen in search of or battling over treasure, while others have died simply because of the treacherous ocean. Over the years, the experts that have died in the treacherous ocean have already accumulated a terrifying number. Every person that dies here will become like them, immortal and unaging. As a result, the number of powerful beings in the treacherous ocean will only increase, and never decrease. Today, probably even powerful organizations like the 9 great clans have no idea about exactly how many fusion stages or even half immortals there are in the treacherous ocean. The only reason we were able to make it this far is because of the aura of the Death-Kiss Dragon. If we weren't surrounded by this aura, our presence would have alerted even more powerful mutated beings or the formations set by the Dragon Clan. Michael felt even more heavy-hearted. No wonder Christopher became so afraid when he heard the mention of the treacherous ocean. While following Layla, he couldn't help but wonder that if the second dangerous place was like this, how terrifying the Demon Grave would be, which is said to be the most dangerous place in this world. Even a fusion stage cultivator survived here this long only because of the Death-Kiss Dragon's aura. Otherwise, they could easily face life-threatening dangers with just a lapse in concentration. Whoa! Michael's body jerked. Suddenly, the scene before them changed greatly. The original island disappeared instantly, replaced by an endless desert. A flaming red sun hung in the sky, scorching the ground with terrifying heat, raising the temperature of the entire region to a terrifyingly high temperature. "We've fallen into a formation," Layla furrowed her eyebrows and spoke with a deep voice. Michael immediately unsheathed his sword and looked around for any activity vigilantly. He also ate some perception pills again, preparing for another battle. He had witnessed the horrors of the treacherous ocean, so he did not dare to be careless at all. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble violently. The ground where Michael and Layla stood slowly began to sink into the ground and, at the same time, their feet were trapped by the moving sand, constantly sucking and dragging both of them underground. "Fly." Layla spoke coldly. With a flick of a finger, a sound wave immediately collided with the ground, turning the sand trapping their legs into dust. She immediately began to float. Michael did not hesitate either. He stepped onto the flying sword and put arch energy into the sword. The devastating force of the arch energy turned the sand into dust, propelling him out of the ground. The sand below the two of them constantly sank down, forming a huge black hole. A putrid smell wafted from it. Just a breath of it was suffocating. Soon afterward, the entire desert began to tremble violently before forming a weird but huge, almost 200-meter-long monster. The horrid gaping cavern below the two of them was the enormous mouth of the beast. The monster seemed like a lizard that had been magnified countless times. It had light brown skin with countless cracks, radiating scorching hot. Its entire body seemed to have formed from sand. "This is a region created from the fusion of a killing formation and an illusionary formation," Layla mumbled softly. She could tell that it was all an illusion with a single glance. The formation here was cast down by experts of the Dragon Clan. It's extremely well hidden, so it can catch people completely off guard. We need to be careful in the future. It's fortunate that the formation just then was not as powerful as before, or it wouldn't have been that easy to break free from it. Layla said indifferently. Michael nodded sternly. His fear for the formations was even greater than Layla's. The illusions of Spectre were still following him and affecting his focus as the old man was so lifelike. He did not fall prey to another illusion. Several powerful presences quickly flew over from the distance at that moment, attracted here by the commotion, hurrying over from all directions. Michael and Layla immediately flew away from the monster. The living corpses all behaved instinctively. They were unable to perceive things visually, unable to see anything. They completely relied on sensing foreign presences and activity to search for living organisms. Thanks to the death-kissed aura, they were unable to pinpoint Michael and Layla's location. Michael and Layla traveled far from where they were before. Living corpses that hurried over in the meantime, from everywhere. They all stopped where the two of them were before lifelessly. They paced about mindlessly, without dispersing for a very long time. The two of them advanced carefully, where Layla discovered traces of many formations and a few living corpses, both human and magical beast. They kept a wide distance from them, so the journey was frightening, but there weren't any battles. The two of them flew with their guards up, occasionally stopping to look around. They had only traversed a couple of hundreds of kilometers in over half a day, yet they still remained in the outskirts of the treacherous ocean. They had not even reached the general region of the island. The sky, concealed by a thick layer of fog, darkened slowly. The darkness of night filled up the treacherous ocean slowly. As expected, both of them were unable to see in the darkness of the treacherous ocean, which caused the range of their vision to shrink constantly. Layla traveled with her vina in her hands. She looked at the darkening sky, and her bewitching eyes became rather stern. She said, "It's darkening. It's not suitable for us to travel at night. We need to find a stop to rest for the night and continue tomorrow." "Fine with me, Lady Alden," Michael replied calmly. Eventually, Michael and Layla spent over an hour finding a cave that was spacious enough. The cave curved about inside and was about 100 meters long, so they did not fear that they would be seen inside. At the end of the cave, Layla produced a fist-sized luminous pearl from her space ring and lodged it into the roof of the cave. It shone with a gentle light, illuminating the darkness. In the treacherous ocean, the living corpses were extremely sensitive to any ripples of energy ripples as well as objects that never usually appeared in the treacherous ocean. This was why they could not light a fire. The heat and smoke would travel outside and draw in the living corpses or the golems or any other weird beings in the area. The only way for light was through the luminous pearl. Layla sat down and slowly closed her eyes after lodging the pearl in place. She paid no attention to Michael while he ignored the old man sitting beside him and applied the healing potion on the baby dragon's grayish scales. He then found a clean part of the ground and sat down with his legs stretched out. He glanced to his side, glancing at Layla, who always kept her face concealed. "You are not the ghost I know, kid, you have become weaker, get out of my head." Michael closed his eyes for a moment, calming himself down. Looking away from Spectre, he cast away the distracting thoughts in his mind and began to look into his situation. He first opened up the system's interface to see it's still in safe mode. His remaining sword was almost on the verge of breaking because of the fight he had with the fishes and the golem on their way. The sword's condition was not his worry, as he knew a sword alone won't make much difference in front of these living corpses and golems. He needed to depend on the baby dragon's death-kissed aura and Layla to survive this place. "You forgot the first lesson I taught you, kid, never depend on someone else other than yourself." "What are you doing?" "The rules have changed, old man, this is not the Earth," he said, gritting his teeth. "People like us can't depend on others, kid, as I said before, this is not Earth. If I wanted to rule this world, I have to depend on others." "Ha ha ha ha." The old man burst into laughter. Although Michael could understand all of this was happening inside his mind, it felt so real. "That's the most childish thing I heard in my entire life, kid. Do you really believe you can rule this world? People like us don't get a happy ending. There will be always someone on the good side to put us down. It's only a matter of time before someone put an end to you, kid." "I know it's not you talking but my own subconscious mind." Michael gave a short slap to the back of his head and ignored the old man. "I need some fresh air." He then stood up to take a walk. Chapter 156, What are you trying to do? Just as he stood up, a chime-like voice appeared from behind him. Michael abruptly looked backward as he heard it. Layla had already opened her eyes. Her limpid eyes seemed to contain ripples like autumn water, staring at Michael with a bewitching charm. Michael remained calm, staring back at Layla. "I'm going for a walk." Layla slowly closed her eyes and said gently, "Remember where you are right now. You can't make trouble. Not only will you lose your life but also lose the baby dragon, our best chance to survive this place." "Lady Alden, don't worry. I'm not going to mess around with my life." Michael laughed gently, before concealing his presence. He walked outside silently. It was already pitch black outside the cave. The sky was dark, devoid of any stars. Michael's vision was affected by the darkness in the treacherous ocean as well. It was not as bad as the fog where his hand would leave his range of vision if extended, though it was still limited to only several hundred meters because of the perception pills he took. Deathly silence lingered in the surroundings, with no sound at all. It was as if only Layla and he were in the entirety of the treacherous ocean without any other traces of life. Michael calmly stood at the cave's mouth, staring at the place. He did not make any sound at all. Suddenly, Michael's ears twitched slightly. Soon after, a gleam of light immediately flickered in his dull eyes. He suddenly raised his head and stared fixedly into the distance, becoming grim in a flash. A while later, several dark figures slowly emerged in Michael's vision range. They traveled on the ground, walking slowly in Michael's direction. Their movements were stiff like robots. Drops of sweat began to drip down from his head staring at the figures. They were all at core strengthening stage, and he could even sense some soul-refining humanoid figures among the dark figures. Michael's calm expression was replaced by a stern look. Locking his gaze with the dark figures, he slowly backed away without making a sound. "Shit, they found us." Michael was shocked. He had no time to wonder how as he rushed to the end of the cave. He needed to tell Layla about this. Perhaps she had sensed Michael's hurried steps. Layla had already opened her eyes when she arrived at the end of the cave. Even in a situation like this, she maintained her graceful composure. "Lady Alden, there's a group of core strengthening and a few soul-refining mutated creatures heading towards the cave," Michael said silently. Hearing that, Layla's expression changed abruptly. She stood up suddenly, eyebrows furrowed and expression grim. She could handle a few fallen core strengthening mutated beings, but she seriously doubted that she could fight a group of core-strengthening beings and a few soul-refining beasts at the same time. The battle would alert even more mutated beings. Furthermore, it was night right now. Visibility in the treacherous ocean was too limited, while the dangers were unknown. It was even more dangerous than fleeing in the daytime. Just how far are they from the cave? Layla asked, her tone was stern. Around 400 meters, Michael replied. Neither of them dared to speak aloud. This cave must have been where they once stayed. Quickly, we need to leave here immediately. Layla showed no hesitation, running towards the outside with the Vina in her arms while Michael followed closely behind her. Both Michael and Layla knew the outcome extremely well if they met these mutated beings. Even with the baby dragon's aura, the mutated beings still would be able to sense them if they became too close. The two of them hurried out of the cave. They moved completely silently, without making any sound at all. Both of their faces turned pale when they arrived at the entrance of the cave. There were 7 human mutated beings, and they had already arrived within 50 meters of the cave entrance. They were all expressionless, with lifeless eyes and stiff movements like robots. Furthermore, they were all at the core strengthening stage. When Michael and Layla arrived at the entrance of the cave, he scanned the area and then heaved a small sigh of relief because the soul refining stage mutated beings were far away from the core strengthening stage group, which gave Michael an idea. Powerful auras immediately began to radiate from the mutated beings' bodies as surging energy trembled in their bodies. The region turned into a storm of energy instantly. Fuck it, I have to use that. He was saving that item for a dire situation, and this was such a situation. He quickly promoted the system to show his storage. Inside the dark bluish system storage, a vial radiating golden rays of light appeared in front of his eyes. It was the healing potion he got by opening his first gift box after coming to this world. Refer to Chapter 3 if you have no idea what I'm talking about. He received 2 healing potions, and because he had no other way, he used one to save Raylene and her baby. The one in front of him was the last healing potion that could make him immune to any attacks for 2 full minutes. He knew 2 whole minutes of immunity is a super op thing, and now is the time to use the potion. Lady Alden, do you have a sword or anything like that to fight these things? To get the most out of the healing potion's effects, he needed a good sword or a weapon to kill these mutated beings. The sword on his back was in no condition for another life or death battle. Why? You are not strong enough to fight them. Trust me, Lady Alden, I have a way. Seeing no other way and the confidence in his eyes, she flicked her wrist as a bunch of swords and spears appeared on the ground before Michael. All of the weapons that just appeared were either epic or rare. He did not have time to study them to pick the best. He just picked 2 swords with brown hilts and silvery blades. Of course, they were epic weapons. She creased her brows, having no idea of what's he planning. Lady Alden, use your strongest attacks on the mutated beings I'm targeting and try to keep the others from me. Don't come closer to them, use the distance to your advantage, and after exactly 2 minutes, we make a break for it, hopefully before any soul refiners appear. That's my boy, the old man beside Michael clapped. Layla on the other hand furrowed her brows. You're going to fight them head on? You have no chance of winning. Roar. All the mutated beings produced monster-like roars at the same time. They no longer remained like before with the roar, becoming much more nimble. With a few blurs, the 7 core strengthening warriors charged at Michael and Layla. I got this. Just after these 3 words escaped his mouth, Layla saw him take out a golden color elixir and finish it in one gulp. Our time starts now. In a blink of an eye, Michael turned himself into a bolt of lightning and dashed forward, targeting one of the muted beings. The arch energy in Michael's body flowed steadily into the 2 swords in his hands. He used the lightning dash, arriving before one of the core strengthening stage warriors instantly in the form of a blur. He stabbed the sword that radiated with the energy of destruction into the corpse's chest with lightning speed. The living corpse did not show any intentions of dodging as it faced Michael's attack. It paid no attention to Michael's sword, directly throwing a punch at him. His mastery over swords and nimble body let him easily dodge the attack. Cruck. One of the swords passed through the person's chest without any obstructions, reappearing on the other side. Again, there was no blood or even any signs of pain on the person's face. Meanwhile, his fist continued towards Michael with great strength. Michael used the lightning dash, dodging the punch in a blink of an eye. He quickly evaded to the side, slashing the person using both of his swords. They directly chopped away half of the mutated person's chest, leaving only half of his body connecting the upper torso and lower half. He did not stop from cleaving its body into two halves but continued to slice and dice the body. Ding! Congrats to the host for killing a core strengthening stage level 7 mutated being. The reward is 90,000 experience points. Wind blast. Ignoring the notification, he raised his hand, shooting a wave of forceful wind from his palm to send the diced body parts flying in all directions. At this very moment, another 2 core strengthening stage warriors attacked Michael at the same time from the side. Their attacks were extremely simple, bluntly hurling their fists without any fancy tricks. Ding! Suddenly 2 visible notes of music pushed the mutated beings away from Michael and disoriented them, and the music was powerful enough to rip off the mutated beings' hands off, allowing Michael to slice and dice them before wind blasting them to far away. Ding! Congrats to the host for killing a core strengthening stage level 7 mutated being. The reward is 90,000 experience points. Ding! Congrats to the host for killing a core strengthening stage level 7 mutated being. The reward is 90,000 experience points. The falling of the 3 mutated beings did not stop the rest of them from attacking Michael. They all targeted mainly Layla because she was the strongest and wasn't covered by the Death-Kiss Dragon's aura. However, this didn't stop them from throwing a few killing blows at Michael. Pulch! Pulch! Layla saw he was punched in the face and the chest by 2 mutated beings, but before she could actually react, he swung his whole body and slashed the 2 of them like their punches did not hurt him at all. She was stunned by the sight because a normal body strengthening stage cultivator could have survived those punches. She was sure of it. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 10,000 badass points. The 2 swords swept through the air as a black streak of light with a destructive aura, severing their heads. He had directly bisected 2 mutated beings. As expected, even with severed heads, they quickly approached Michael, directly kicking at him. Ding! Ding! At the same time, 2 more musical notes cut their bodies further before Michael sliced them up again. Ding! Congrats to the host for killing a core strengthening stage level 7 mutated being. The reward is 90,000 experience points. Ding! Congrats to the host for killing a core strengthening stage level 7 mutated being. The reward is 90,000 experience points. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is body strengthening stage level 6. Chapter 157. Michael remained expressionless regardless of reaching the next level. Layla's musical notes again crushed the mutated being closer to Michael, but still, it couldn't stop it from punching him in the chest. Just like before, the punch did not affect him at all. Michael felt like he was being hit by a huge hammer, yet thanks to the healing potion, he experienced no pain. Swiftly, his right hand moved, slashing the mutated being who just punched him countless times at devastating speed. The densely packed blurs seemed to form a closely knit net, enveloping the mutated being's body parts layer after layer. Michael exhibited the full power of his sword mastery. In that very moment, he had thrust his sword out over 100 times with unbelievable speed. Right now, the closely knit net seemed to become like a meat grinder, directly shredding the mutated being into countless pieces of dried flesh. Although the mutated beings were core strengthening stage warriors, they couldn't fight with their best because of the teamwork between Michael and Layla. Besides, they had no weapon and were unable to use the arch energy. Since these mutated beings had no functioning brain, they did not even have the most basic awareness for dodging or resisting. All they knew was to attack outsiders with their fists, to slaughter the outsiders. In a nutshell, these were all like netherils. As a result, the strength of the mutated beings was far from the time they were alive, therefore he was able to slice and dice them like veggies without much trouble. Ding! Congrats to the host for killing a core strengthening stage level 7 mutated being. The reward is 90,000 experience points. Finishing off the mutated being, Michael immediately used the lightning dash, disappearing instantly. Just when Michael disappeared, two fists brutally spaced into the empty space he was before. The power created a sonic boom. Plop. Suddenly, a visible note clashed with the mutated being behind Michael, easily severing the limbs. Again, Michael sliced the body before wind blasting the pieces far away, so the pieces won't reform quickly in front of him. Unexpectedly, more mutated beats appeared out of nowhere, surrounding them. Michael already felt the effects of the healing potion fading away little by little. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is Body Strengthening Stage Level 7. On the other side, while Michael was fighting the remaining mutated beings, Layla fought the 4 newly arrived Human Core Strengthening Stage mutated beings. She carried her Vina in her left hand while her left hand constantly danced about on top of it. Sound waves collided with the 4 Core Strengthening Stage warriors one after another. Every sound wave would create a great hole as they hit them, and the knockback was so powerful that the 4 struggled to advance forwards. Although Layla took a different path of cultivation, her strength clearly was much greater than anyone in the same stage as her. The special soundwave attacks carried a great strength, able to stop the advance of 4 Core Strengthening Stage mutated beings without much difficulty at all. It was even enough to make the 4 of them retreat, unable to approach Layla no matter what. Layla played 5 of the 7 strings with a rhythm. Each soundwave shot out from Angel's Vina as her fingers moved, and whenever a soundwave would collide with one of the 4 Core Strengthening Stage beings, it would leave behind some energy of the Vina in the air. Slowly, the residue energy accumulated and became denser and denser, and when it reached a certain level, Layla also stopped playing. She looked towards Michael and called out, "Retreat quickly." Hearing it, Michael did not hesitate at all. He immediately finished off his last mutated being before turning into a chain of blurry figures and retreating to Layla's side. Layla's finger slowly fell on the 6th string, which caused it to fluctuate gently. The 6th Vina string produced a clear sound. It began to tremble heavily, and shortly afterward, the Vina energy that had accumulated in the air suddenly became extremely violent. With a boom, the Vina energy immediately exploded, where the violent ripples directly ripped the 7 Saint Ruler mutated beings to shreds. Roar! 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 The commotion of battle here had alerted the experts far away. Immediately, dozens of beast-like roars resounded from far away in all directions. The roars flooded the sky, essentially resounding throughout the entire treacherous ocean in the pitch-black sky. Immediately, a dozen or so presences radiated over from different directions, and even further away, an even more powerful presence faintly appeared, including soul-refining stage mutated beings. "Leave here quickly," Layla said hoarsely. She could already feel the appearance of a terrifying presence, something that would even be able to cause her fear. It was a fusion stage living corpse. Michael also looked grim. Although his environmental scanning was suppressed in the treacherous ocean, he was still able to clearly feel the presence of more and more terrifying mutated beasts. He had also discovered that at least several dozen core strengthening and soul refining stage warriors were currently flanking them from all directions. Once they were trapped, the outcome would be virtually disastrous. It could even attract even more experts. Michael and Layla fled at top speed, fleeing into the distance as fast as they could. However, before they could get any further, the 7 Core Strengthening Stage warriors ripped into smithereens by the sound waves had reformed. He was damn stunned to see the 7 of them again, not because he expected them to stay dead but according to his calculations. They shouldn't be here this soon as he blasted the pieces away in all directions, and it should have taken some time to reform and reach the battle site. They all roared at the 2 of them, who had yet to flee far. A sliver of cold light flashed across Layla's eyes. She immediately placed the angel's Vina before her, beginning to play it. However, with a flash from beside her, Michael had already charged at the 7 Core Strengthening Stage warriors using the lightning dash as he carried the 2 swords. He called out, 40 seconds, he counted the remaining time before shouting at Layla, "Let's go." Layla looked around the surroundings. She could feel that the experts rushing over from all directions were getting closer and closer. She said with a deep voice, "It's extremely difficult for both of us to throw them off in an extremely short amount of time with our strength. Once the mutated beings arrive and surround us, Michael slashed his swords a dozen times instantly, dicing one of the core strengthening stage warriors with a mere face-off. He cried out, "We don't have time for this. I know you can also sense the terrifying presence approaching us. Let's go, we are running out of time." His voice was heard by Layla clearly. For a moment, Layla's gaze became complicated. She stood there in hesitation and did not leave immediately. Although she had reached the fusion stage at a young age, he could tell she had not much battle experience as she lacked the quick responses of Michael. The system urges the host to buy a special teleportation scroll for 10,000 badass points. Do it. He screamed in his mind, and then he heard the system again. Only the host is allowed to teleport using the scroll. For a second, the system sounded like it was screaming with regret and anger. Fuck. He cursed inside, turning his gaze at Layla before another mutated being could come closer. "I'll hold them off, you get out of here." He came in front of her, shielding her from the mutated being's attacks while she was standing there, slightly traumatized. "I can take these attacks for another 30 seconds, I'll keep them busy while you fly away from here." She had never thought that in the dog-eat-dog world where it was filled with malevolent people, there would actually be someone so stupid that they would take an almost fatal risk to block several dozens of powerful entities, just to earn some precious time for a stranger that they had only met several days ago to escape. In a situation where death was virtually guaranteed, even brothers related by blood could betray each other, let alone a stranger. However, she had no idea that she's totally wrong. He was not being a white knight in shining armor, but he didn't want her to think that he abandoned her. After all, he still needs her help to get what he wants. Besides, he couldn't let her see him use a teleportation scroll, as she mentioned to him that no scrolls would work here, and if she sees him using one, it would definitely lead to some unpleasant questions. On the other hand, Michael's actions immediately caused a great change to Layla's gaze towards him. She stood there as the light flickered through her eyes uneasily. She did not know whether she should abandon Michael to flee for herself or to stay behind and fight with him. Although she had little chance of getting the demon dragon's heart at the center of the island without the death-kissed dragon of his, she could still survive on the outskirts before leaving the island. Currently, the great presences from all directions were getting closer and closer. Seeing how Layla still did not leave, Michael could not help but become mad. He called out, "What are you staying here for? What will you do? You won't survive, I have no time to explain, leave." Layla looked at Michael, who was currently battling the several core strengthening stage mutated beings while counting the seconds in his mind. In the end, she gritted her teeth and made her decision, turning around and leaving. She disappeared into the darkness in the blink of an eye. Even though her abilities with the Vina were extraordinary, she lacked the battle experience and the heart of steel like Michael. Once she was surrounded, she knew that it would be much more dangerous for her than Michael, who certainly had a way to deal with them and escape. Chapter 158. After Layla departed, Michael slowly backed off from the mutated beings to use the teleportation scroll. Meanwhile, the presence from the surroundings was currently approaching where he was. Michael kept the mutated beings around him busy all by himself. He constantly dealt terrifying sword wounds to them, but these injuries did not affect them at all. They battled for just a few seconds, and 5 of the 7 mutated beings were already diced up by Michael. However, their bodies rebuilt themselves immediately. They were completely indestructible. "Time to escape, kid," the old man's voice sounded from behind. "System, use the scroll now." The very next moment he shouted, a golden light instantly covered Michael before a mutated being threw a punch aiming at his chest. He immediately moved his body to save the baby dragon from getting punched to death and took the punch directly on his left chest. Currently, the violet-dressed Layla stood several kilometers away, staring in Michael's direction, showing mixed expressions on her face. She could clearly hear the noise of intense battle, which then gradually faded away. "I hope you come back alive," Layla murmured gently. Afterward, she went off quickly into the distance with her Vina, slowly disappearing into the darkness. Somewhere far away in the treacherous ocean, a golden spatial hole in the mid-air appeared. In a flash, the golden hole disappeared, but one could see a black figure screaming and falling from the sky. Phew-uwak, thud. The black figure hit the ground, producing a loud thud noise. The black figure was no one but Michael, whose right hand now looked weird and bones sticking out because of the fall. Michael spurted out blood, his chest was aching like he was being hammered alive. He was experiencing excruciating pain in his abdomen and chest, and he could tell he had broken a couple of ribs. Gritting his teeth in pain, he willed the system to give the healing potions he brewed from the system's storage. The healing potion appeared on the ground as he slowly reached out his left hand to pick it up, fighting the pain inside of him. The fall broke his arm, but the punch he received from the mutated being just before activating the teleportation scroll messed up his inside. Luckily, there was only a millisecond's difference between the punch and the end of the golden healing potion's effects. Cough. Cough. He coughed out a mouthful of blood again while checking to see the baby dragon's condition. His last-second dodge thankfully saved the baby dragon. He heaved a sigh of relief. "You better come back to life stronger," he nudged the sleeping dragon with his bloodied fingers. Shockingly, the corners of the baby dragon slightly, very very slightly, like it could still understand what he was saying. This little act of the baby dragon put a smile on his face and momentarily gave him the strength to overcome his pain to swallow the healing potion. Crack. The very next moment he gulped the healing potion. He cracked his right arm to set the bones in the correct position so the healing potion would heal his wounds much more quickly and efficiently. After getting fully healed, he did not go anywhere, sitting back down on the ground and slowly closed his eyes. He waited silently for dawn, as he always remained vigilant of any activity in the surroundings. Originally, he wanted to return and rendezvous with Layla. But traveling in the night in the treacherous ocean truly was a bad idea, and Layla had probably left the region before long ago. It would be extremely difficult to search for her with a limited range of only a few hundred meters. "System, show my stats," he ordered the system in his mind as the familiar stat window appeared in front of him. System version 3.0, safe mode, host, Michael, cultivation level, body strengthening stage, level 7, experience points, 30,000/300000 badass points, 29,000 skills and spells, wind blast, LVL2 responsive shield, LVL3 environment scanning, LVL2 ignitia, LVL2 lightning dash, LVL2 energy devolver, LVL1 death range, LVL2 techniques, swords of destiny, 89% mastery, occupation, core disciple of Sunrise Sect, the guardian of Sunrise Sect, Lord Lucifer of the abyssal status, recovering goals, control the world, rebuild the order of death, utility function, banker, LVL3, ratio, 1,000 gold coins, 10 badass points, wealth, 1,670,000 gold, special trait, 5-star alchemist, subordinates, Gaia, loyalty level 95%, base of operation, Sunrise Sect, the abyssal. At this rate, I will be a core formation warrior in no time. This is exciting, Michael thought. "I hope you come out of the safe mode, system," Michael said, staring at the grayish interface. The system can vaguely feel a sliver of extremely potent energy. After a pause, he heard the system's voice in his mind. He sensed a sliver of excitement in the system's voice. "What are you talking about? What energy?" "The system level is too low to answer the host's question," figured. Michael finished the system's sentence, rolling his eyes. The system urged the host to be extremely careful here. What happened to adventure out, exploring the dangers? The system did not utter a word after his question. To be honest, he missed having these little conversations with the system. He expected the system to be more human-like after upgrading, but contrary to his expectations, the system entered into a safe mode, returning to its previous robotic nature. Suddenly, Michael's expression changed. He quickly exited the system, narrowing his eyes at distance. Caution flickered in his eyes. "I can't stay here for long, damn it. Is this just a coincidence, or they are somehow finding me?" Several powerful presences appeared far away, quickly approaching the area. Pushing away all his questions to the back of his mind, he carefully placed the baby dragon into his pockets before disappearing into the dark night in the blink of an eye. Not long afterward, numerous core strengthening and soul refining mutated beings flew over from a distance. They all stopped where Michael was, mindlessly strolling around, and did not disperse even after a very long time. Michael's figure appeared silently several hundred meters away. He stared closely at the mutated beings and thought, Layla said the baby dragon's aura will prevent the powerful mutated beings from detecting us, but why do I still get the feeling that someone's watching me? Trust your instincts, kid. The old man appeared beside him, but Michael ignored the old man's comments and disappeared into the dark night once again with a slight movement, silently moving off into the distance. Visibility quickly recovered as the darkness of the treacherous ocean receded in the morning of the next day. Slowly, the island became fully visible once again. Michael slowly opened his eyes in his seated position on a flat meadow in the treacherous ocean. He had spent the latter half of the night there, and the long-awaited dawn had finally come. His vision was extremely clear again without the concealment of the night. He could clearly see several kilometers away in the open area. He did not stay here much longer, following the signs of battle from the night before to continue on his way towards the depths of the treacherous ocean. He hoped he could find Layla, who he had been separated from. Only by traveling together he could survive this place and get what he wants. He hurried on his way, but his vigilance did not decrease by the slightest. He would look around for any signs or hidden traps from time to time. Along the way, he found many mutated beings wandering around mindlessly. They were all either core formation or core strengthening stage beings, but with no exception, Michael avoided all of them from afar, without even coming within a 1,000-meter radius. After last night's events, he seriously doubted that the death-kissed aura could completely make him invisible to all these mutated beings. A couple of hours later, he arrived at a mountain range. The forest on and around the mountain was slightly misty, covering a large portion of it. He paid attention to his surroundings as he walked, arriving at the location where he had been separated from Layla very soon. Afterward, he continued inwards. An hour later, he was amidst the mountain range. This was the general region of the treacherous ocean, sandwiched between the outskirts and the center. Only by passing through here could he directly arrive at the depths. He took each step with the utmost caution, expecting a surprise attack. I wonder what else I would find in the depths of this place. Suddenly, Michael paused. His eyes were locked with the boulder that was as tall as a man not too far away. On the boulder grew a plant half a meter long, and from the stalk, there were 2 leaves and a blue flower. His neck hair stood straight up when he laid his eyes on the plant. That's a blue camellia, an extremely rare herb. Michael immediately exclaimed after seeing the flower. He was overjoyed as hurried up to the plant to carefully examine it. This blue camellia seems to have grown for tens of thousands of years here. I knew there must be quite a few rare resources here. This place is freaking dangerous, but it's also an untapped treasure trove, murmured Michael. Afterward, he gently uprooted the plant from the ground. Amateurs would have only picked the flower, but he was not an amateur. He planned to grow the herb in his herbal garden. Others must wait thousands of years to get the absolute best of the herb as the medicinal qualities of the herb increased with maturity, but he had the system. It could definitely make the herb become mature without having to wait thousands of years. Chapter 159. Michael lifted the herb gently. I need to save Christopher and make him reach the soul refining stage no matter what. He then stored the herb in his system's storage so its medicinal effects would not dissipate. Michael could not help but smile when he gathered another precious herb to plant in his herbal garden. The blue camellia flower was extremely rare as well as hard to grow in ordinary locations. If it wasn't for the system, he wouldn't have uprooted the plant, as he wouldn't be able to grow it somewhere else. This is not the place nor the time to go on a treasure hunt, kid. Spectre's voice appeared again as he turned to see the old man still following him. The mist must have some chemicals that induce hallucinations, just like the fear toxin. That was definitely not just an illusion, he said to himself, looking at Spectre, his mentor. He was doing his best to ignore the old man, but it was damn hard to neglect a lifelike person who follows him everywhere. Since I'm here, I might as well make the most of it. Besides following the trail of Layla, he decided to occasionally deviate from his path to find more rare herbs. Michael no longer paid any more attention to Spectre. He just used the lightning dash, turning into a bolt of lightning to move in the direction of Layla's trail. The scenery around him suddenly began to change greatly just after traveling a few kilometers. The world suddenly darkened. He discovered that he had strangely arrived at a vast starry sky. Countless stars filled every inch of the space, so densely packed that it was innumerable. He had no sense for direction at all in the vast starry sky. It was the same everywhere, without any differences. Michael discovered that he was completely and utterly lost when he had arrived here, actually unable to tell which direction was north or south, east or west. He could not even tell which way was up or down, left or right. "Oh, come on, another freaking illusionary formation," Michael murmured with a soft voice as he became stern. He knew that the formation this time was much more powerful and profound. It had already conjured a starry sky as soon as it appeared. Other ordinary formations could not be compared to this. "This'll be troublesome. I'm completely disoriented, so I probably can't walk out of it. Just how am I supposed to break out of this illusion? It must have been cast down by a great person from the ancient dragon clan looking at the handiwork. I might not be able to break the formation using raw strength, but if I could only find its source," Michael mumbled. The memories of Abras came to help. Apparently, Abras had learned about formations in the sanctuary from the elders. Cultivators who were on or above the soul refining stage could use the celestial energy to break most of the formations. It was the simplest and fail-proof method. Considering Michael didn't have celestial energy in his body, he had to look for a source which is powering the formation. Finding the source would be pretty hard and nearly impossible for others but him. It was relatively simple thanks to the perception pills. Inside the illusionary formation, he was surrounded by countless stars as he felt like he was floating in the middle of the freaking Milky Way. "All right, where are you hiding?" He looked around the stars after eating perception pills like Tic Tacs. Since he maintained a healthy diet, exercise, and his cultivation were regulated through the system, he did not have to worry about polluting his body by taking too many pills. It was one of the perks of having a system. After taking the perception pills, the Milky Way surrounding him became more lucid as he could see each star clearer. All the stars around him were flickering twice in a regular interval. Each star radiated a unique color, none looked similar to another one. Staring at thousands, even millions of stars, his head ached as he rubbed his temples. Eventually, after a few hours of studying the patterns of the flickering stars, he found a star in the distance that flickered a millisecond faster than the others. This difference would have been impossible to find out if it wasn't for the perception pills. Locking his gaze at the star, he felt a sense of accomplishment. "There you are," he unsheathed his sword and threw the sword aiming right at the star. The sword soared through the starry sky, soon piercing the star while producing a faint humming sound. After the sword pierced the start, he only felt the wild whistling of the wind, and soon afterward, his vision suddenly brightened. He had already left the illusion of the starry sky, returning to the treacherous ocean once again. Around him stood the familiar mountains and hills. Heck yeah! He couldn't help but shout with a sense of pride after breaking the formation without depending on Layla. However, he did not dare to linger any longer. Lightning dash, he activated the spell, turning himself into a bolt of lightning before advancing through the depths of the mountain at an extremely great speed. Soon enough, he stopped before a small, 3-meter-tall tree. The tree was neither too wide nor too thin. It was a healthy tree with dense leaves and thick branches, and through the dense thicket were a few, fist-sized red fruits, slightly obscured by the leaves. They were like apples, but their red skin glowed. Silk apples, his eyes sparkled in excitement. Among all the potions and pills he knew, 90% of them tasted horrible, including the perception pills he just took. When he was eating them, he felt like he was chewing a rubbery egg. Although silk apples didn't have medicinal qualities like blue camellia, it was one of the very few fruits that could change a pill's or a potion's fragrance and taste as well as enhance the pill's effects to a certain level. An alchemist would pay a small fortune to get their hands on silk apples because these fruits were extremely scarce in Elon or any other continents. Michael climbed slowly, making his way up to the tree to pick the fruits. One by one, he picked all the fruits, and because the system's storage would keep herbs as well as fruits like this fresh without letting the medicinal qualities dissipate, Michael cleaned the entire tree with no concerns. A smile appeared on Michael's face as he looked at the 20 glowing apples in the system's storage. He could feel the extraordinarily great alchemical effects of the fruits. They were at least 1,000 years old, or even several thousand years old. These fruits should be able to enhance the effects of my products by quite a lot, Michael mumbled to himself, before taking one fruit for storage and exiting the system. Crack! "This is good." He couldn't help but praise the fruit when he took a bite. The silk apple was soft yet crunchy and juicy. The sweetness made his taste buds and the tongue dance in joy. While savoring the apple, he resumed his journey following the trail left behind Layla, and he did not forget to check his surroundings for more rare fruits or herbs. On his way following the trails, he avoided many mutated beings with the help of the baby dragon's aura. Due to Michael's utmost calmness and cautiousness, Spectre's figure flickered constantly. He felt the effects of the mist fading away from his body. After a long time, he experienced calmness and breathed a sigh of relief. However, this feeling did not last long because suddenly, many mutated beings at various stages detected Michael somehow. They produced angered roars as they began chasing him. "Oh, come on." Michael's mood became gloomy. He quickly unsheathed the two swords from the dual sheaths attached to his back. Several wild beast-like roars immediately arose in response as soon as they saw a group of mutated beings following Michael's presence. Several dozen powerful presences appeared immediately, quickly approaching the area. The roars from the surroundings grew closer and closer. Michael could already see the figures of a dozen or so mutated beings, currently him. He immediately filled every corner of his body with arch energy, making preparations for the strategic retreat, aka running away. The surroundings around Michael suddenly changed greatly. The lush mountains and forests disappeared, and so did the figures of the mutated beings. He had arrived at a blood-red world, where an edgeless sea of blood laid beneath their feet. It constantly bubbled like boiling water, but there was no heat at all. "Fuck, it's another formation," Michael cursed, realizing that he had fallen into another formation. The sea of blood below began to surge suddenly, like a roaring wave. A big cluster of blood rose from it, slowly forming a huge dragon head. Roar! The dragon head, completely made from blood, roared at the sky. Powerful sound waves rocked through the entire world of blood, and shortly afterward, the head rose from the blood towards the sky, revealing a 100-meter-long crimson-scaled dragon. He felt like he was in the Hobbit movie, only this time, it was terrifying. Although this dragon resembled Smaug, the dragon in the Hobbit movie, this dragon was at least 5 times bigger, meaner, and frightening. A few figures flickered in the surroundings at the same time. The mutated beings who were pursuing Michael had also entered the formation. They directly charged for Michael, paying no heed to the blood dragon. Chapter 160 Roar. The 100-meter-long blood dragon produced a roar that shook the sea of blood. Opening its mouth, it breathed scorching hot fire, surging directly for the corpses. The blood dragon did not seem to exist to the mutated beings. All they had in their sight was Michael, nothing else. They did not avoid the dragon's breath at all, they just wanted to rip Michael apart. The enormous dragon breath directly engulfed over 10 of them. However, this was not just an illusionary formation. As Layla said before, this was made of 2 formations, killing and illusionary formation. Therefore the fire ate away a large portion of the mutated beings' bodies as Michael watched on in shock. As expected, their indestructible bodies came into place soon afterward. They returned to how they were before, continuing their charge at Michael. He immediately activated the lightning dash and ran over the sea of blood, getting far away from the mutated beings. The blood dragon seemed to have felt seriously challenged after seeing how its dragon breath did absolutely nothing to the mutated beings. It roared angrily and swung its front claws at the mutated beings. The blood dragon was extremely powerful as it was radiating an aura of a level 10 soul refining stage beast. Before the dragon's claws, the core strengthening and core formation mutated beings were like soft butter as they were ripped in half by the dragon. The blood dragon did not stop with just that. It suddenly turned its great head towards Michael, raising its claw once again and swinging it as a blood-red blur at him. Sensing the danger, his neck hair suddenly stood up. He immediately leaped into the air using all of his strength, which led to the claw sweeping through thin air. Just as he was in midair, another 10 or so mutated beings appeared within the sea of blood. Their arrival immediately drew the blood dragon's attention. Its claws swept out once again towards the mutated beings, roaring in fury. Shit, he was jumping around, barely escaping both the dragon and the mutated beings. The only thing that helped him was the vast number of mutated beings that kept the blood dragon from targeting him. He was running out of perception pills, but he was not in the state to worry about that. Swallowing a couple of pills again, he focused on finding the formation's source while evading the attacks. Although he used the lightning dash and was very agile, the mutated beings were still able to land some attacks. System, keep the healing potions coming. He was gulping the healing potion and saving it in his mouth. Every time he sensed that he can't evade, he would immediately swallow the healing potion in his mouth so it would keep him from being severely wounded yet. His skin has slightly turned pale due to the blood loss. At the moment, there were numerous bloody wounds in his body and the black Neo suit was in a very sorry state. He was soaked in blood and there was not a single place in his body that remained untouched by his blood. What restricted his movements more was the baby dragon in his pocket. He did not only have to evade the attacks but he also had to keep the baby dragon in his pocket safe. This whole trip would be pointless if he let the baby dragon get killed now. Finally, after almost an hour of surviving the formation, he eventually found the formation's source. The source of the formation was hidden extremely well and he doubted that he could have found it without the perception pills. The source of the formation was nothing but one of the mutated beings that pretended to be trapped inside the formation. The moment Michael sent a bolt of lightning through its head, the sea of blood, as well as the blood dragon, disappeared. The next moment he appeared among the mountains once again. Give me a break, he desperately wanted to lay on the ground, healing the wounds but beast-like roars constantly resounded in the surroundings. Several dozen mutated beings had already appeared, all charging towards him. A powerful presence that completely exceeded that of soul-refining mutated beings far away at this moment. It shot towards them several times faster than the mutated beings. Michael immediately became stern. He wiped off the blood from his face. Fuck, that's the presence of a fusion stage. Michael's face paled slightly. This was not the end. Up ahead appeared another abnormally powerful presence. It was actually another fusion stage being. 2 fusion stage. Michael exclaimed. His face had become completely drained of blood. He could barely survive a soul-refining stage mutated being if he was at his absolute best, in front of not 1 but 2 fusion stage mutated beings. He did not even think he could last a few seconds. At this moment, he wanted the system to come out of the safe mode like never before. However, he did not roll down and die. He retrieved 2 healing potions and gulped them in one go before activating the lightning dash using all of his remaining arch energy. Roar! He quickly shot through the mountains and forests. Behind him, the 2 fusion stage mutated beings remained close, pursuing them and unwilling to let them escape. They all flew just below the 10-meter threshold. He thanked himself for upgrading the lightning dash to level 2. If it wasn't for this spell, the fusion stage mutated beings would have caught him a long time ago. Suddenly, the nearby space suddenly began to twist when the 2 fusion stage beings were only 1,000 meters from him. The scenery before him changed in the blink of an eye. He was now standing in a bleak wasteland, completely barren of any greenery. It stretched as far as the eye could see. A towering battle tent suddenly appeared far away, so powerful that it was far beyond Michael's reckoning. It was filled with a condescending aura as if nothing in the world seemed significant to it, where he was the overlord of the world. Bang! 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 Suddenly, booms began to resound from afar. The land trembled rhythmically. Michael paled as he heard the sounds. Every boom coincided with his heartbeat. It seemed mysteriously connected, causing his heart to ache painfully every time it sounded out, like someone grinding their foot on his heart. He felt like his heart was about to explode. Arg! Michael clenched his chest in some pain. He had already become pale white, while his forehead was already wet with a layer of sweat droplets. He was astounded. What is this formation? It's so terrifying. Just the sounds from it are enough to suck away my strength. An ape-like figure clad in golden armor slowly appeared in the distance near the horizon. He walked over slowly, step by step, causing the ground to shake violently every time his foot fell. It seemed to be like stepping on Michael's heart as well, causing his pain to become more intense. The figure seemed to advance slowly, but the few steps he took covered great distances, appearing several hundred meters from Michael. The figure resembled King Kong to Michael, and even from a distance, Michael could see the pair of eyes burning with surging battle intent. He was extremely burly, almost 10 or 12 meters in height, wide and stocky. Michael became even paler after seeing the figure. For the first time ever, he had lost all courage for battle in front of the giant. The ape's battle intent and his aura had collapsed Michael's psychological line of defense. Deep down in his heart, Michael was terrified. Warning. Unknown energy. The system urges the host to leave immediately. His vision was suddenly filled with red warning boxes, and he heard the system's screams in his mind. Who's this person? Why can't I sense his cultivation? Michael's emotions tossed and turned. Another two figures appeared in the bleak wasteland at this moment. The fusion stage mutated beings had also entered the formation in pursuit of Michael. They charged towards him as soon as they appeared. He immediately activated the lightning dash, running away from the two fusion stage mutated beings. At the same time, the man moved. He slowly raised his fist, and a heavy voice boomed in the surroundings. Death to those who dare to intrude the land of Edros, the ape screamed, beating its chest violently, and then, it punched the air with devastating battle intent. The entire region began to appear so weak, so fragile before the man's fist. At the same moment, time seemed to completely stop. Only the ape's large fist moved. In this instance, the two fusion stage muted beings as well as Michael all felt that they had lost control of their bodies. They could only watch on blankly as the ape's fist grew bigger and bigger into a gigantic ethereal fist. Swish! Just as the ethereal fist was approaching them, a flash of blue appeared inside Michael's head, revealing the formation's source. Quick! The system's voice was panic-stricken. He did not waste the precious seconds as he sent a bolt of lightning using the last of his arch-energy towards the source, which was a boulder nearby. The scenery changed the moment the lightning bolt destroyed the boulder. Michael finally regained control of his body after he left the formation space. His forehead was littered with droplets of sweat, while his heart tossed and turned. He was extremely perturbed. What the fuck just happened? Edros. I know this name, the heavy voice boomed through Michael's head again and again. His entire body began to tremble slightly. He searched through Abras' memories and revealed everything he knew about Edros, the king of the Beastmen race. The Beastmen race's king, Edros, was an existence that surpassed immortals. He was a godlike figure revered by all the Beastmen as well as magical beasts. Michael immediately turned around to look back. All he saw was the two fusion stage mutated beings standing blankly several hundred meters away. A few moments after, a loud boom sound could be heard as they turned into dust and disintegrated. They showed no signs of reforming even after a lengthy time. A big droplet of dark crimson blood floated nearby that glowed brightly, several meters above the ground. Chapter 161, That must be that ape's blood, but how did it come here? A question appeared in Michael's mind as he stared at the crimson droplet of blood. He could not help but recall everything Abras studied about Edros and Idros' time. In ancient times, the Beastmen races and the dragons went to war with one another. At that time, Edros, who was the Beastmen race's king and their strongest, slaughtered many dragons. However, in the middle of the war, Edros disappeared without a trace. Idros' disappearance changed the tide of the war completely, and the Beastmen suffered a huge loss at the hands of the dragons. Eventually, the other races, mainly Nagas, organized peace talks between the two races because the war affected all the other races in the world. Since both races suffered a huge loss, they had no way but to end the war. Following Idros' disappearance, the Dragon Clan in the Dragon Island also mysteriously disappeared from the face of the planet. Soon, the dragons slowly lessened in numbers, some died of old age while some just vanished without a trace. Michael was positive that Idros' disappearance has something to do with what happened to the Dragon Clan, and this drop of blood belonged to Edros. However, he was unsure if Edros, the greatest king of the Beastmen, had left this drop of blood here willingly. How did the dragons turn that ape's blood into this killing formation? Just a droplet of blood is already so powerful. It can easily kill off two fusion stage mutated beings. No wonder slaughtered countless dragons, Michael thought as he stared at the golden blood that was growing further and further away. Suddenly, Michael seemed to think of something. His eyes narrowed abruptly and staring fixedly at the blood, this ape. The golden Babaru of Noah. Is that monkey somehow related to Edros? Michael's heart began to beat heavily. A terrifying notion appeared in his mind as he stared deeply at the crimson blood that gradually disappeared into the distance. He exclaimed, I have to return here when I'm strong enough. If that golden Babaru of Noah was Edros descended, he did not doubt that the monkey will be his foe in the future. After seeing the giant ape, his fire of saving the baby dragon burned brightly in his heart. With the system's help, he would turn the baby dragon into the biggest baddest dragon this world has ever seen. After leaving the killing formation and the place where he saw Edros, he found a small cave to rest and heal his wounds. Luckily, he never tripped any formations on his way to the cave. He did find several mutated beings, but he was able to avoid them. Inside the cave, he was laying on the ground half naked, his robes torn to pieces, leaving him with only one set of clothes, the casual robes of King Chala. After cleaning his body using arch energy, he put on the robes. Creech. Michael tore his black coat to get a long strip and then, he tied the baby dragon onto his chest using the cloth. Suddenly his eyes narrowed, sensing the space several kilometers away being distorted. It must be Layla. She's fallen into a formation, Michael murmured because the space being distorted was a sign of an activated formation. Just as he was about to take a step forward, a familiar figure appeared before him, Spectre. Where are you going, kid? Don't risk your life trying to save a woman you barely know. It's not your style. Shut up. Michael understood what the old man was trying to imply. He tried to ignore the old man as he began to walk outside of the cave. Just let the woman. It's easy for you, isn't it? After all, you killed the only woman you loved. His steps were halted by the old man's words. Flames of fury and sadness emerged in Michael's eyes as he clenched his fists. Don't. His body was slightly shivering in anger. Images of a girl in her bathrobes on a bed flashed across his mind. The girl's white bathrobes and the bed underneath her were turned red by her own blood. There were 2 bullet holes on her chest and 1 bullet hole right between her eyes. He looked down to see a gun flicker in his hand. It was Michael who shot the girl. You killed your brothers, sisters, and the girl you loved because of a bunch of orphans. Spectre's voice fanned the flames burning in his heart, making him lose his calm. They were not my brothers and sisters, and she knew what was going to happen. He stuttered in anger. If it wasn't for her distracting me, I would have saved the orphanage, all those kids, and all those people. Go away. He shouted, taking a few deep breaths to calm himself. He did not want to get distracted by Spectre, as any distractions inside the formation would lead to nothing but death. Lightning dash. Soon after he reached the cave's mouth, he activated the lightning dash, turning himself into a bolt of lightning. He then moved in the direction of the distorted space. Eventually, after running for a few minutes, an indistinct violet figure attracted Michael's attention in the blurry distorted space. Just as he guessed, it was Layla, who was stuck in a formation in the distance. Without any hesitation, he charged at the formation, looking at the several soul-refining mutated beings who were heading towards Layla. After a couple of minutes, his surroundings turned gray and hazy in a blink of an eye, indicating that he had entered the formation. Layla levitated 1 meter in the air with her legs crossed, while the unadorned angel's vina laid on her hands. 10 elegant white fingers formed blurry afterimages, quickly playing the first 6 strings of the vina. She produced notes after notes hurriedly, while the 7th vina string would also be struck from time to time. It would result in violent rumbles in the surroundings. Layla became extremely grim and her forehead was already covered in a layer of sweat. She had continued into the depths after she had been separated from Michael the night before. She had accidentally fallen into a powerful formation, one of the powerful formations of the Dragon Clan. It has been well known since ancient times. It was the absolute killing formation, the Wrath of 100 Dragons. It was said that in ancient times, several half-immortals of the beast men race died to this exact formation, achieving wide renown. It was known as one of the deadliest formations in the world. Deafening dragon roars constantly boomed through the illusionary hazy space. The entire space was filled with huge dragons as they all used their dragon breaths, swung their claws, used various secret techniques, or just charged directly at the center. There sat Layla in the air. She used her vina to block the attacks from all directions strenuously. Countless sound waves shot from the vina, surging in all directions. She had learned about formations including the Wrath of 100 Dragons in the Royal Library of Azair. As a result, Layla understood this formation very well. The Wrath of 100 Dragons was, just as the name suggested, was a lethal formation formed from a total of 100 dragons. The formation had 7 forms. In the first form, all 100 dragons were as powerful as body-strengthening beasts. In the second form, their strength would increase to the core formation stage. With the third form, the 100 dragons would reach the core strengthening stage beasts. The fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh forms would respectively make the 100 dragons reach the soul refining, fusion stage, half-immortal, and immortal stage. I hope this formation is not a complete one, Layla prayed in her heart. She was still able to forcefully break through the third form if she burned her vitality greatly, but once it reached the fourth form, it would be certain death for her. She had already been trapped in the formation for several hours. In this time, she broke through the first and second forms of the formation by herself. She currently faced the third form. Roar! Suddenly, all the 100 dragons in the formation roared at the sky together, and then, streams of scorching hot fire shot out of their mouths. Soft whisperings drowned the space, and vast energy radiated from the dragons, filling the entire region. They've started to use the dragon's breath, Layla murmured. Her face was pale and seemed extremely grim. The dragon's fire could melt the strongest metals in the world. Even a core strengthening stage dragon's fire was powerful enough to burn any soul refining stage cultivator to ashes. Hundreds of these core strengthening stage dragons could certainly kill not one but several fusion stage warriors like her if they used the dragon's breath. Layla gritted her teeth, and a sliver of determination appeared in her eyes. A slender finger gently touched the 7th and the final string. Her finger was cut as soon as she came into contact with it. Dark red blood immediately began to flow, before being absorbed by the string. The 7th string became completely red after absorbing her blood. It radiated an extremely mysterious aura that seemed to contain the celestial energy. At the same time, a gentle, graceful vina note seemed to hum softly from beyond the sky, echoing through the entire formation space. Layla paled from the loss of blood through her finger. This blood was not ordinary blood, but it was lifeblood. Unlike the normal blood flowing in a cultivator's body, the lifeblood can't be reproduced quickly through any means, including high-purity healing potions. Once a cultivator used his or her lifeblood, they could only regain the lifeblood by consuming certain rare herbs. Currently, Layla used her lifeblood as a price to use an ability completely beyond her strength. Roar! 100 dragons produced an earth-shaking roar. It was filled with the endless might of dragons and seemed to be able to shatter the void. It created countless sound waves, layering upon one another in the formation space as it quickly radiated towards Layla with an aura of absolute destruction. Layla gently struck the 7th string at the same time. Ding! The sound produced by the vina echoed through the mountains and forests. It was only a musical note, yet it contained great power. A powerful sound wave that was visible with the naked eye began to expand in all directions at an unbelievable speed. The sound completely suppressed the roar of the dragons. Wherever it passed through, space would ripple, blazing through anything that blocked its way. It surged towards 100 dragons like a hot knife through butter, gently colliding with them. Soon after, all the dragons in the formation disintegrated. The third form had been broken. Layla had played the 7th string at the cost of her vitality. All 100 dragons fell to a single wave of sound. The 7th string trembled violently. She had already become pale as a white paper as all blood drained from her face. Her eyes also dulled for a while, revealing the weakness she struggled to conceal. Roar! Suddenly, another dragon's roar rose up. Soon afterward, vast presences appeared in the formation space. The 100 dragons had reformed their bodies, and they each radiated with an aura countless times more powerful than before. Despair immediately appeared in Layla's eyes when she saw this. She said with endless bitterness, "The 4th form. It's the 4th form." Looks like I'm fated to die here today. Breaking through the third form of the formation was already her absolute limit. She possessed no more strength for any resistance against the fourth form that could simply kill a lone fusion stage warrior like her. Chapter 162. The formation had completed its fourth form. All 100 dragons revived. They were now soul-refining stage beasts. Each dragon was over 70 meters long and radiated an aura of pure destruction. Everything looked extremely realistic even though it was all just created from a formation. The vast aura from the 100 dragons pressed against Layla to the point where she even struggled to breathe as if she was dying from asphyxiation. Another dragon's roar resounded as several dozen dragons charged at Layla. Their auras were like a huge mountain, brutally pressing against Layla's soft body. Layla was pale, she had already given up resisting. When she broke through the third form of the formation, she had already lost a great amount of lifeblood. She was so weak that she would not even have the power to face the third form again right now, much less the fourth. Several dozen huge soul-refining dragons aggressively charged at Layla, wanting to break her into pieces. The distance between them was decreasing rapidly. Layla slowly closed her eyes, falling to the ground while slowly losing her consciousness. Her heart was filled with an unwillingness to give in, but she had no power to resist the fourth form. Just when she was about to accept her fate, a golden bolt of lightning flashed in the hazy space when the dragons were 100 meters away from her. Michael directly charged into the formation space, with one goal in his mind: save Layla. As soon as he entered, the scene before him changed drastically. He saw the might of the killing formation clearly. He appeared right beside Layla, so everything he saw was exactly what Layla was experiencing. A few dragons had already flown over, swinging their huge dragon claws filled with a force capable of shattering the void at him. The claws were already less than 10 meters from their heads. Time was of the essence. If he wanted to save her and escape this formation, he had to find the formation's source. He did not have the time to say anything as he lifted her from the ground. Lightning dash, all of his hair suddenly stood up like he was zapped. He sensed the great danger rapidly drawing closer and closer with each passing second. While carrying her in his arms, he activated the lightning dash before swallowing the remaining perception pills he had. When Layla was surrounded by the death-kissed aura, the 100 dragons in the formation lost their target as they suddenly looked confused. A small sigh of relief escaped his mouth when he saw the confused look on the gigantic creatures. However, he did not waste any seconds as he paid closer attention to every nook and cranny in the formation to find the source. After losing their initial target, the 100 dragons turned their attention towards the mindless mutated beings who had rushed into the formation. While the mutated beings were being disintegrated by the dragons' breaths, Michael was searching for the source. There it is. Lady Luck was with him this time as he found out the source sooner than he expected. The source was a small stone that was laying on the ground in plain sight. Thanks to his heightened senses due to the perception pills, he identified the stone as the source before sending a bolt of lightning at the stone. The moment the bolt of lightning hit the stone, the scenery around him changed in a blink of an eye, and without him knowing, he was teleported away from where he was. Realizing he escaped the formation and somewhat understood that he was teleported, he sucked in a deep breath, slowly calming himself. Just as he sucked in that breath, he smelt a vague fragrance. His attention, which had been focused on the experience in the formation from before, was directed toward Layla. Currently, Layla had collapsed on Michael's body powerlessly. Her slightly warm body pressed closely to Michael's toned chest, her face pale and her eyes dull. She was extremely weak. Breaking the third form of the formation before had cost her dearly, to the point where she did not even have the power to move. The angel's vena that she always carried had disappeared too, returning inside her body. Feeling Layla's soft body and the fragrance, his heartbeat increased a little, which was not surprising because any man would tremble or at least slightly if they saw a gorgeous woman like Layla. She had always been a dignified, saintly, and divine woman to Michael. Never had he thought that they would be so physically close. However, he was not one of those guys who would drool and turn into an absolute beta in front of beauty like her. After all, only because he was an alpha male, he got the badass system. Lady Alden, are you awake? He gently placed Layla's back against a huge tree after he looked around to see if any mutated beings were approaching them. Layla slowly opened her eyes to see Michael staring at her. A red flush immediately appeared on her concealed face when she realized that he carried her in his arms here. However, she recovered very quickly. "You're alive," Layla's voice carried a sliver of surprise, but it was extremely indifferent. He lightly chuckled. "Sorry to disappoint you, Lady Alden." For a second, he saw her smile before she put an indifferent expression on her face. "How did you escape the formation back there?" she asked. A sliver of shock was hidden within her eyes. "It was because of this baby dragon's aura, Lady Alden." Michael gently tapped the baby dragon on his chest. "Surprisingly, those dragons in the formation couldn't sense you after I picked you up. After that, I just kept running before something teleported us here." He did not reveal the fact that he could find a formation's power source because he wasn't sure whether it's an ancient secret part or not. He believed it's safe not to say anything until he himself confirms this with Gaia, his most trusted advisor. "You must have triggered something," Layla said after staring at him doubtfully for a few seconds. She couldn't find any explanations for how he escaped, as she thought that he was just lucky. A beast-like roar suddenly appeared from the distance as Layla wanted to continue her questions. Her eyes narrowed abruptly when heard the roars. Her face became grim once again. She said softly, "I've already used a large portion of my lifeblood battling those dragons. I can't fight another battle until I regain at least some of my lost energy and lifeblood." "It's okay, Lady Alden. Can you at least move?" As he expected, he slowly shook her head, trying not to look embarrassed. "So, Lady Alden." He didn't finish the sentence, but she knew what he was implying, and even though she understood that she had to be carried, she couldn't help but hesitate. The roars in the distance became louder and louder. "Lady Alden, we cannot waste any more time. Please let me." His smile disappeared from his face as a stern occupied his face. He then directly lifted her up before she could even nod, because this was not the time for her to play shy princess. Her body slightly trembled in his arms while a tint of redness appeared on her rosy cheeks. He did not notice the changes on her face. He was busy running away from the mutated beings while hoping not to trigger any more formations. Along the way, Layla witnessed the terrifying power of the movement spell he's using. It really surprised her and made her wonder if this is an epic or legendary spell. Even with his body strengthening stage cultivation, the spell exhibited a shocking level of potential. After he began to lose sight of the mutated beings that were following them, he stopped occasionally to collect as many precious herbs as he could. It must be mentioned that there really were many rare resources in the treacherous ocean. Herbs with a maturity of 1,000 years were basically everywhere. Only after running for several hours did he stop. Layla essentially spent the entire time meditating in his arms, eyes closed to regain some of her energy. She was the person most at leisure. At dusk, Michael found another cave to settle down in. The pitch-black cave only had a single luminous pearl as a light source. The weakened Layla sat in a slightly dark corner, still recovering silently with her eyes closed. "Take these, Lady Alden. Although it won't help you regain your lifeblood, it will heal your body." Layla heard a warm voice. Michael squatted beside her with a few healing potions in his hand. She could not help but think of the scene where he carried her as they fled from the mutated beings earlier in the day. Right now, Layla slowly opened her eyes. She looked at the healing potions in Michael's hand calmly and gently shook her head. "I'm not injured. I've just expended too much of my lifeblood. I need rare herbs to recover." "The fuck?" Her words stunned him. He collected all those herbs to expand his herbal garden as well as use them to make potions and pills for him, Gaia, and the baby dragon. He was also planning to auction some of those herbs to make a shitload of gold coins. After seeing her current condition, he sighed and took out 3,000 years old blood leaf from his space ring without showing the reluctance on his face. He then passed them to Layla. "I don't know if this is enough." "If it's not enough, I still have a few more," he said, but hoped it would be enough for her to recover her strength. To cure the baby dragon and successfully get the demon dragon's heart, he needed her more than she needed him. He was willing to lose a few herbs to save his baby dragon. A sliver of surprise flashed across her face. She looked at Michael with mixed emotions, before extending her soft hand to receive the blood leaves. "Thank you." Michael did not choose to advance into the depths of the treacherous ocean the next day as Layla was still recovering. Instead, he carved out a new cave as a temporary dwelling and stayed there, waiting for Layla to regain at least some of her strength back. The wait lasted for 2 days. During that time, Layla recovered some of her lifeblood and celestial energy with the help of the 3 blood leaves. Unlike her, he recovered all of his arch energy, returning to his peak strength. Afterward, she left the cave with Michael. Outside the cave, he retrieved his flying sword and tossed it into the air before turning to look at the veiled Layla. "Lady Alden, we should travel together so you can save your strength. We still don't know what danger lies ahead of us." She looked at him for a few moments, thinking about this, but after a while of deliberation, she accepted his suggestion. She stepped on the floating flying sword without uttering a single word and maintained a certain distance from Michael. Chapter 163. After they departed from the cave, they were traveling towards the island center where the demon dragon's heart was lying dormant. The depths of the treacherous ocean had almost become a paradise for powerful mutated beings. They could be seen wandering in the mountain ranges everywhere like they were taking leisure strolls. The center of the island was covered with thick smoke, giving the area a gloomy ambience. In the center of the island, a human-sized orb was radiating bright beams of light, resplendent and dazzling. Countless powerful mutated beings were wandering around the orb. The orb had a ruby-red surface as from within, one could see a bright red light flickering in a rhythm. Veins and roots ran chaotically on and around the orb, lessening the warm light radiated by the orb. This was the demon dragon's heart, the item Michael and Layla were searching for. Suddenly, the orb shuddered from within, glowing brighter and brighter. Roar! At this moment, no matter if it were the powerful mutated beings closer to the orb or those roaming on the outskirts of the island, they all roared loudly. Several tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of mutated beings roared together. This commotion could literally be described as earth-shaking, causing mountain ranges to fall and the void to collapse purely from the sound. The roars from several tens of thousands of powerful mutated beings were filled with absolute hatred for some unknown reason. The treacherous ocean's appearance was finally changed at this very moment after countless years. The entire island shook violently, the ground jolting and opening up chasms thousands of meters deep. Many of the surrounding mountains directly exploded as they could not withstand the roars of over 10,000 powerful mutated beings. The mountains and forests turned into a mess. Following closely, the powerful mutated beings still roaming outside roared angrily, flying toward the orb as fast as their limbs allowed them to. While the mutated beings were chaotically running around, 2 figures were slowly walking through the mist towards the glowing orb. "There it is," it was Layla who said this, pointing her fingers at the glowing orb a couple of meters before them. Michael closely followed Layla while cautiously looking at all the wandering mutated beings in the area. His heart was pounding against his chest in fear because all of the mutated beings were at least at the soul refining stage, and he could even see a few level 10 fusion stage mutated beings guarding the orb. He had no more saliva to swallow as his mouth became dry. Any single of the mutated being could end their life right now if they detected their presence. After recalling the events that happened in the treacherous ocean, he identified only when he was alone that the mutated beings were able to detect him, but when he's with Layla, the death-kissed aura proved to be effective. The 2 of them took each step with utmost cautiousness, avoiding the gazes of the mutated beings. Currently, thousands of powerful mutated beings roared at the sky above them. Step by step, they got closer to the orb. Michael felt the warm energy coming from the orb, and soon, he could hear a faint heart-beating sound. "Place the dragon on the heart," she whispered to him. He grabbed the baby dragon tied to his chest as gently and silently as he could before placing the baby dragon on the orb. The moment the baby dragon's body touched the orb, it began to tremble violently, producing an unearthly humming sound. His heart skipped a beat, fearing the commotion would draw the attention of these wandering mutated beings. Just as he was about to reach for the swords, Layla grabbed his hands, shaking her head. "What now?" he whispered, but instead of answering him back, she just gently tapped his shoulder, wordlessly telling him to wait. Calming himself down, he just stared at the baby dragon who was lying on the orb, absorbing the heat coming from it. Crack! 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 Suddenly, the orb began to crack, producing crackling noises. The veins and roots on the orb's surface retracted themselves while the cracks got wider and wider. He started to sweat under his robes, fearing that they were going to notice them, but fortunately, the mutated beings were oblivious to what's happening. Look, Layla tapped at his shoulder to turn his gaze away from the mutated beings to the baby dragon. His eyes immediately widened in shock and surprise as the baby dragon's grayish scales began to revert back to their original shiny crimson-red scales at a visible speed. Just as they were witnessing the changes in the baby dragon, the orb suddenly exploded, yet surprisingly, the explosion did not produce any sounds but a bright light of flash that momentarily made them blind. When the bright light disappeared, they saw the baby dragon floating in the air a couple of meters above their heads, carrying two small orbs of violet fire in its claws. Locking her eyes with the two orbs of violet fire, Layla raised her hand at the baby dragon as he slowly flew towards her. Is he? Yes, he's cured, Layla said indifferently without taking her eyes off the violet fire orbs. A relieved smile appeared on his face. He did not care for the two violet fire orbs as much as he cared for the baby dragon. After everything that he went through, he expected something dramatic to happen before curing the baby dragon, but contrary to his expectation, the baby dragon got cured by the demon dragon's heart in a couple of minutes. He was cradling the baby dragon as if he was his baby, and beside him, Layla immediately put the two fire orbs in her space ring. So those two balls of fire, his voice trailed away, demon dragon's heart, she said, sighing in relief. Although this trip was extremely dangerous and she nearly lost her life, in the end, it was all worth it because she got not one but two demon dragon hearts. To suppress Christopher's curse, she only needed the energy of half the demon dragon heart. The remaining energy would be enough for her to break through from level 4 to level 6 of the fusion stage. Michael noticed the changes in her facial expression, and he knew it was because of the two orbs of fire she put in her space ring. If he had the power, he would have at least taken one of them, but for now, if she decided not to share them with him, he could do nothing. For now, he wanted her to suppress the cure so he would get a soul refining stage cultivator to protect his base of operations and the herbal garden. The lesson of no freebies in the world suited not only the Earth but also here, and in fact, it suited more for this world than Earth, as every cultivator he met in this world has their own schemes and they would rarely lift a finger unless they have something to gain. The demon dragon hearts was her payment for leading him here, though she would have died if it wasn't for him. However, he too couldn't have survived alone without her help, so he was okay with her taking the demon dragon hearts. Let's leave this place. He did not need any push as he couldn't wait to leave this forsaken place, at least for now. When he was about to turn back to go in the direction where they came, Layla shook her head. There should be an ancient teleportation array set by the Dragon Clan if we go in that direction. She pointed at the direction further into the island, and noticing the worried look on his face, she reassured, "Don't worry, I can sense the array's faint energy. Besides, in this direction, there will be no more formations from here on." The part where she said no more formation instantly made him agree to her plan because he hated formation and ran out of perception pills. "Come," she said before taking out one of the demon dragon hearts from her space ring so the mutated beings won't attack them. The demon dragon heart substituted the death-kissed aura, only it was better and effective. Having come this far, he had completed what he needed to do in the treacherous ocean. No matter if it was the extremely valuable herbs or curing the baby dragon or reaching the higher levels in cultivation, he had gained more than he initially expected. The herbs, in particular, the dozens of herbs all approached thousands of years in maturity, and combined with the fact that they were almost unobtainable anywhere else, it made them even more valuable. Each herb he picked was like a priceless treasure on the continent. Soon afterward, he followed Layla behind towards the teleportation array, carrying the baby dragon in his arms. When he first met the baby dragon, it was barely radiating an aura of a level 1 arch sensing stage, but now, his energy was slowly and steadily climbing high as he already reached level 8 of the arch sensing stage. Michael realized that it was the illness that was stopping the baby dragon from reaching a higher stage, and by inspecting the baby dragon's body, he noticed the changes in his wings. His weak and frail wings had now become strong and firm. He could tell that soon after he woke up, he could fly like an actual dragon, and also Michael expected him to breathe fire. Imagining the things he expected the baby dragon to do, he walked behind Layla further into the Dragon Island. Chapter 164. Through the gloomy mist and forest filled with gigantic ominous black trees, Michael followed her towards the teleportation array that was supposed to teleport them back to somewhere in the Azer continent. The baby dragon was still asleep in Michael's arms, having no ideas of the dangers around him. They both uttered no words, as although they had the demon dragon heart's aura around them, they took no chance by chit-chatting. Therefore the journey was pretty gloomy and silent. Eventually, after walking for several hours, they walked out of the forest in the middle region of the treacherous ocean. After walking out of the forest, they were welcomed by a narrow path between two gigantic mountains. After pondering slightly, she said, "If I recall correctly, this path between the Ostium Mountains will lead us to the Twilight Ground, and from there we can go to the teleportation array. Remember, it's extremely dangerous inside it. Many soul-refining and even fusion-stage mutated beings will be there." Ostium Mountains? He was slightly surprised to hear the name because Ostium ore was one of the requirements to upgrade the Dawnbringer to level 2. "Lady Layla, is it possible for me to collect some Ostium ore here?" After pondering slightly, she said, "Ostium ore should only exist in the Twilight Ground. You can't mine these mountains. Are you looking to forge a weapon?" Michael nodded, seeing her correctly guess his intention of seeking the Ostium ore. Since she didn't look too surprised, he realized using Ostium to forge a weapon was not a rare thing in this world, and it did make sense as it was required to upgrade the Dawnbringer to only level 2. "Where is this Twilight Ground?" he asked. The Twilight Ground is not in the depths of the island but under an extremely hidden cliff in the middle region. It tunnels straight into the ground and is extremely deep. After wiggling through the narrow cliff for another hour, they finally found the entrance of the pit under a cliff according to the geography described by Layla. The entrance to the pit was a huge hole 100 meters wide. The hole directly sunk into the earth and was pitch black. When the duo stood at the edge of the unfathomably deep pit, they could sense a ghastly, bone-chilling wind from it. He stood at the edge, staring into the darkness with curiosity and cautiousness. His eyebrows were furrowed and his calm expression instantly became rather stern. "When we go down, we should be cautious. It'll help you gather some ore, but remember, you can't take too much of it as it might draw some unwanted attraction towards us." "Understood, Lady Layla." "Good, let's go down," she said confidently, before leaping down first. Following her, he jumped into the pitch-black hole, quickly descending into the darkness. The Twilight Ground was completely enshrouded in darkness, nothing could be seen. After falling for several hundred kilometers, some light gradually appeared beneath their feet. The light expanded in size as he quickly descended before it finally enveloped Michael. His vision was no longer pitch black but filled with colorful light. It was extremely pretty as the light would glimmer from time to time. The glimmers of light were dense and they twinkled like the stars in the sky. The sight stunned Michael. He felt like he was swimming in outer space as he stared at the starry sky around him. The two of them continued their descent down the pit at great speeds. They had no idea just how deep it was. They had fallen for at least 1,000 kilometers, yet they had still not hit the bottom. Along the way, the two of them had also seen many mutated beings falling into the hole deeper and deeper, but they did not detect the two of them. With their constant descent, Michael slowly sensed that the hole seemed to be permeated with an odd energy. The temperature here would constantly change, sometimes bone-chillingly cold and other times scorching hot. It was as if they constantly traveled between two regions of opposite climates. What is this place? He couldn't help but wonder after witnessing everything in this place. This hole doesn't seem to be naturally formed. Did this hole appear after the island changed? Also, this hole plunges in a straight path from the surface right into the earth. It's as if a massive object fell from the sky and carved this out. It's my thought too. This tunnel is just too straight. There are no bends at all, and images of the starry sky actually appear here. If you connect these facts, it's as if something from outer space had really collided with the island before creating such a deep crater. Layla broke her silence and agreed with him. She too had a hint of curiosity in her eyes. They continued their way down. Eventually, after falling for several hours, they finally hit solid ground. They had arrived at the bottom of the hole. The pit still permeated with colorful nebulae. Starlight glimmered faintly as if they were each star that floated in space. They were innumerable, filling up the entire place. Michael glanced around and discovered that the bottom was extremely large. It stretched as far as the eye could see, and he could feel that the weird energy was even thicker here. The surrounding temperature constantly alternated between a frigid coldness and a scorching heat. Just what is this weird energy? Is this celestial energy? Nah, this is something else, he mumbled to himself as he stared at the surroundings. Even his inherited memories of Abras contained no information on the weird energy here. At this very moment, a strand of scorching energy fused with a strand of the frigid energy midair. Michael and Layla immediately focused on it with their senses. They discovered that the energy created when the extremely hot and extremely cold energies fused was indeed extremely similar to the energy radiated by the formations and the mutated beings. There must be some connection between this whole and what happened to the Dragon Clan. Just how many mysteries this world holds? He asked himself before beginning to search the surroundings. After he traveled 100 meters, some dust that glimmered slightly on the ground caught his attention. Squatting down, he gently grabbed a handful of the glimmering chunks of stone and closely examined it. Don't collect that. Collect the ores that are floating in the air. Suddenly, he heard Layla's voice coming from behind. He glanced at the pebbles of ostium in his hand and then looked toward the glimmering ores that floated in mid-air like stars. Although the glimmering ores of ostium in the air were much smaller than the ores on the ground, they glowed brighter than those on the ground. Those ostium ores floating in the sky are purer than the ores on the ground, she said, and then she moved away from him to quench her curiosity about this place. Glancing at the ores in his hand, he hesitated slightly. He did not throw them away, but instead, he put them into his system storage. Then, he began to collect the ostium ores floating in the sky. As the ores in the air were extremely well dispersed, his speed of collecting them was not great and their small size did not help him. A while after he was collecting the ores, Layla's voice came from the distance. Come over here. Michael immediately stopped his collection, walking in Layla's direction to see why she called him in the middle of his treasure hunt. When he got there, he saw Layla standing in front of a human corpse. They did not know how long it had been dead for, but its appearance had not changed at all. Layla was examining the corpse curiously while he sensed the weird energy in the surroundings constantly entering the corpse and slowly fusing into its bones. This weird energy just happened to be produced when the extremely hot and extremely cold energies fused. Looking at it, he's already been dead for thousands of years, but there's no sign of decomposition at all, she said with a deep voice. Michael too stared at the corpse with interest. Lady Alden, I can feel that there are some changes currently occurring in its body. I think this weird energy is mutating the body. At this very moment, the corpse on the ground snapped open its eyes without any prior signs. Its eyes were dull without any signs of life. It immediately produced a great roar, echoing through the entire pit. Afterward, it slowly stood up from the ground and turned its head like it was scanning its surroundings. His hands were already reaching for the swords, but Layla shook her head, wordlessly telling him not to do anything. Let's back away, she whispered to him, slowly backing away from the mutated being while the mutated being started to wander around the place mindlessly. Although she had fulfilled what she needed in coming here, she had no intention of leaving immediately, unlike she pretended. She ventured onward in the twilight ground with Michael as she was extremely curious about the transformation of the island that occurred all those years ago. Of course, she had no idea of telling him everything, especially the fact that she was leading him a long way instead of a short way to the teleportation array. The area of the twilight ground was unknown to Michael, therefore, he could only trust that she knew the path and follow her behind. They traveled for a dozen or so kilometers in one direction but still had not reached the end. As they traveled, figures of the mutated beings gradually appeared in their sights. Since she said not to collect too much ostium ores, he sighed helplessly and kept walking past all the ores floating in the sky. However, after walking behind her for several hours, he creased his brows. We've actually come back to where we were before. Chapter 165. Considering Michael searched the place for ostium ores before starting to collect the ores floating in the air, he was familiar with the layout and he instantly realized that they came back where they were before. Lady Alden, we were here before, he said, and by the look on her face, he could tell she also noticed this phenomenon. This is the mystic disorientating formation. How is this possible? Why would it appear here? She mumbled under her breath unconsciously, and because of the perception pills, he heard her. Lady Alden, are you familiar with this formation? His tone of voice contained a tint of doubt. Yes, I learned about this. She regained her usual calm composure, hiding confusion in her eyes. Where dash, just follow my steps. She waved her hands, stopping Michael from asking any questions about the formation. He began to doubt that Layla's intention of coming here is more than to obtain the demon dragon hearts. He hesitated for a while before he followed her behind. He decided to trust Layla this once to see if she had a method to break through the formation or not. Pay attention to my footsteps. You must not take a step wrong. If you do, you won't be able to break out. She warned him again. She then began to step back and forth like she was slow dancing. There were 38 steps required in total to walk out from the formation. When she took the 9th step, the surroundings immediately began to change. She discovered that she had actually arrived in a vast starry sky. Afterward, Michael appeared behind her. When he realized he's now in a vast starry sky, they all stared blankly. They were extremely shocked. Unlike before, at this moment, he could see outer space as his vision was filled with nebulas, Milky Ways, bright stars, and even colorful lush planets. Whoa! Is everything before me an illusion, or have I really come to outer space? He said in shock. He could not tell whether what he saw right now was real or fake. Michael observed the surroundings, frowning his eyebrows. A couple of seconds after he was staring at the scene speechlessly, Layla began to explain, "It's not an illusion, it's real. We've really come to outer space." Whoever cast the formation must have had some terrifying level of understanding about formations. The steps we're taking right now to walk out of the formation just happens to match the bridge that leads to the other side. Every step matches perfectly with an extremely crucial point of the bridge. Stepping wrongly would be like stepping off the bridge and falling into the water. What would happen if we took the wrong step? Although what she said was like a fictitious story to him, he believed it firmly because he was not the one to doubt. After all, he has a system with him. Who would believe that? She shrugged, I don't know. This formation connects worlds and is extremely profound. Everything before us is real. We've followed the bridge and arrived in outer space, and only by following it we can reach the very end successfully. If we take a step wrong during this time, perhaps we will return to the treacherous ocean, or maybe we will be thrown into the vast outer space or simply die a horrible death. Hearing her words, he became rather stern. As the system went safe mode, he treated everything with utmost vigilance. Who would have cast this formation? They actually extended it into outer space, bridging outer space and the world. Unbelievable, he sighed in amazement, his inner voice filled with sincere respect and admiration. Let's go, she said solemnly, continuing on her way with mystical steps. He quickly shoved all of his curiosity and questions to the back of his mind, carefully following her steps in the empty space. With every step they took, the surrounding starry space would undergo some minute changes, as if they had crossed several hundred miles with just a couple of steps. When the two of them took the 13th step, the scene before them suddenly changed. The starry space around them disappeared and they had arrived at a circular tunnel 10 meters in diameter. It was chaotic around the tunnel, one could see nothing but darkness and hear an unearthly humming. This is the spatial tunnel, she said with a deep voice. What's a spatial tunnel? Michael asked subconsciously out of curiosity, holding the baby dragon tightly. This was the first time he had ever heard of something called a spatial tunnel. I don't know either. She shook her head quickly. He knew she was lying, but he also knew she wouldn't reveal anything even if he asked her. However, he couldn't help but wonder where she got all this information about formations and everything related to the treacherous ocean. They traveled through the tunnel step by step. When they reached the 30th step, the tunnel suddenly began to tremble violently. Soon afterward, a powerful storm of energy suddenly appeared far away and quickly rushed toward the group. Layla's expression changed abruptly as she cried out, "Spatial storm! We need to get out of here as soon as possible before the storm gets worse." With that, her footsteps suddenly sped up, quickly advancing forwards. The spatial storm rushed toward them from behind, quickly surging at the two of them. It forced them to advance as fast as they could. Right now, he was completely focused on her steps and copying her steps to perfection. As the last step fell, Michael's vision suddenly opened up. The spatial tunnel and the spatial storm that surged behind him all disappeared as if he had arrived in a different world. It was extremely peaceful in the surroundings, without any dangers. However, he had no time to observe this foreign world. He hurriedly turned around to look back and only saw a ripple in space. Layla appeared before Michael, slightly panic-stricken. Her forehead was wet with sweat, clearly due to being overly anxious. When she saw that she had finally left the damned spatial tunnel, Layla immediately relaxed slightly. She roughly scanned the surroundings, before turning around and looking backward to see if there were any mutated beings nearby. Layla sat silently nearby with her vina in her hands, but she was stern. In this foreign world, there was an unknown number of dangers. After being exhausted mentally, she needed to rest a bit before continuing their journey towards the teleportation array. Even up to this point, Michael had no idea that she took the long path filled with unknown dangers and mystery rather than taking the safe and shorter path to the teleportation array. Having no ideas of her deception, he looked around and realized that he was currently in an endless wasteland. It was desolate, without any grass or signs of life. There was no sun or stars in the sky, it was a hazy gray and did not even have clouds. After a while, he turned his gaze to Layla, who just stood up, ready to leave. Where to next? After some silence and thought, she replied, "There should be a path leading to the teleportation array a couple of miles away from here. I can sense it. Let's go," she said, but she herself wasn't completely sure about what lies next. However, since that person who cast the formation put so much effort into constructing a spatial tunnel that crosses through the stars on the Dragon's Island leading up to here, she believed that there's some secret hidden here and she wanted to see what it is. Michael hesitated slightly because even though they didn't meet any mutated beings on their way here, this place and everything gave him a bad feeling. For now, the only thing he could do was follow Layla, in hopes that she knew the way of getting out of here. At this very moment, an ancient, desolate presence appeared in the far-off distance. It was vast and boundless, quickly expanding into the distance with a soul-shaking might. Feeling the presence, the expressions of the two changed greatly. Before the presence, they felt like even an ant was more significant than them. The pair could not even think of resisting before the presence. Shortly afterward, two colors, red and blue, appeared beyond the horizon. They plunged into the sky like two pillars, radiating with an ancient and desolate presence. Both of them unconsciously looked at the two pillars of light. Afterward, their minds rumbled. Currently, they simultaneously envisioned a foreign scene. They witnessed the chaos before everything, as well as the birth of stars, Milky Ways, and even the universes. Wake up! At this very moment, a powerful shout of the system reverberated through Michael's head. It woke him up and the previous scene of chaos completely disappeared. He returned to reality and he was not the only one who awakened. Even Layla beside him returned to her senses from the powerful shout of the system. System, what the hell was that? What did I just see? Did I just witness the scene where this world was created? Michael's mind was filled with questions, his hands were shaking uncontrollably. The scene with the primordial chaos constantly flashed through his head. He had never felt this terrified in his entire life. The scene of the world creation and the presence of the two lights shook his core, making his mind go blank and weak. The system level is too low to answer the host's question, and the stuff on that level is not something you should know or the system can explain right now. What you just witnessed is not the creation of this world but everything. With your power level, knowing more about this will only lead you to certain death, the system said seriously, and just before he could curse the system for not telling him anything, its voice sounded again in his mind. However, the system's serious tone took a 180 turn as it sounded like it was cooking up some plan. Layla, on the other hand, did not pay any attention to Michael. She just kept looking at the two pillars of light that surged toward the sky in the distance. Her expressions were mixed, grim while also pleasantly surprised. What are you doing? He saw her taking out Angel's vina from her space ring. I'm going to harness some energy from the pillars, she said before dashing towards the light pillars in the distance, giving him no time to stop her. What? Michael was astounded. Although the system did not clearly explain the origins or anything about the two energy pillars, he got a sense that they were not something he or Layla should meddle with without proper knowledge. "Stop her," he heard the system scream in rage. The sound of the system almost made him feel like his head was about to explode. "Bitch, bitch, bitch." Having heard of the system scream and curse like never before, he rushed behind Layla to stop her from doing something incredibly stupid, not because he wanted to save her but he didn't want her to do something that could jeopardize his and the baby dragon's life. You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.